Story 1. I want a divorce, all communication through my lawyer. My wife texted me after 12 years of marriage. I just texted back understood, then shut everything down. Days later, her lawyer was frantically calling me. Hey everyone! Before we jump into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed the channel is losing some traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and it helps us keep bringing you awesome content. Your support means the world. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much. Now let's start the video. Sup Reddit. So I'm writing this from my garage workshop, where I've spent the last few nights focusing on a custom metal project instead of dwelling on how my life blew up by a single text message. After 12 years of marriage, you'd think I'd rate more than 15 words. Buckle up. Some context before I get into the nuclear blast that was last Tuesday. I'm 40 male, a certified welder with my own small business. Started as a pipeline welder at 22, putting in 80-hour weeks in North Dakota oil fields. Spent 5 winters in minus 30-degree conditions, living in worker housing that was basically glorified shipping containers. Most guys blew their money on trucks and bars. I saved every possible dollar. By 28, I had enough to put a down payment on a small commercial space and basic equipment. Spent weekends and evenings after my day job setting up shop, building client relationships, and creating a website. First year was brutal. Took every job, no matter how small. Built railings, repaired farm equipment, fabricated custom parts for local factories. Slept maybe 4 hours a night. Made just enough to keep the lights on. Third year, I landed a contract with a commercial developer who needed custom railings for all their properties. That contract paid for better equipment, which led to higher quality work, which brought better clients. 5 years ago, I quit the day job and went full-time with my own operation. Now have 3 employees, a 4,000 square foot shop, and cleared $110,000 last year after expenses. My wife Candace, 38 female, has a sister named Heather, 45 female, who's been divorced for about 8 years after her ex left her for a younger colleague. Since then, Heather's basically appointed herself as the neighborhood man-hater. She's got a cushy HR director job and spends most of her free time telling anyone who'll listen that men are the root of all evil. Especially me. Heather was subtle at first. 6 years back, Candace mentioned how Heather thought it was strange I handled our budget. Most couples make financial decisions together, Candace said casually over dinner. I reminded her she'd literally told me she hated dealing with numbers when we got married. 4 years ago, Candace started questioning purchases I made for the business. Heather says business expenses should be separate from personal finances. Had to explain again how cash flow works in a small business. Candace nodded but looked unconvinced. 3 years ago, we were at a family barbecue when Heather loudly asked if Candace had to get permission to buy a new dress. Candace laughed it off, but I noticed her shopping habits changed after that. Started hiding small purchases, removing price tags before I saw them. Tuesday afternoon, I was finishing up blueprints for a major commercial railing project when my phone buzzed. Candace had texted, "Ian, I want a divorce. Direct all future communication through my attorney, James Wilson. Contact information to follow." 12 years of marriage ended in a text shorter than most food delivery confirmations. No warning signs I'd noticed. We'd had dinner the night before. Made plans for a weekend BBQ. Everything seemed normal. Well, except for the massive blow-up we had on Sunday night. Candace had been spending more time with Heather lately. Sunday brunches, weeknight dinners, constant texting. Didn't think much of it until Sunday when I noticed our joint savings account was missing $5,000. "Why'd you transfer $5,000 without mentioning it?" I asked while she was scrolling Instagram. She barely looked up. "I don't need your permission for every financial move. It's a joint account. That's literally the definition of joint," I said. Then she dropped the bomb. "You're so controlling with money, Ian. Heather says you're financially abusive. You track every dollar I spend." I almost laughed. "I track our business finances and household budget because someone has to. You haven't looked at a bank statement in 3 years. See? You're monitoring me," she yelled, before storming off to the guest room. I slept alone Sunday night, but by Tuesday morning she seemed normal, then nuked our marriage via text 6 hours later. I stared at the message for a solid 10 minutes. All the emotions were there. Rage, hurt, shock, but they were buried under this strange, cold clarity. She set the terms. Lawyers only. Fine. My phone rang. Casper, my buddy since high school and owner of a local construction company. "We still on for drinks tonight?" he asked. Rain check. Just got a text from Candace. Wants a divorce. Lawyers only. Silence. Then, "Jesus. You at the shop?" "Yeah. Stay there. Coming over." Casper showed up 20 minutes later, walked straight to my office, Close the door. What happened? He asked. No bullshit. I showed him the text. Effing cold, he said. Lawyers only, huh? You answer yet. Just understood. Smart. Listen, two things you need to do right freaking now. Casper leaned forward. First, call Sarah Martinez. She handled my cousin's divorce last year. Guy's wife tried taking him for everything. Sarah shut it down cold. Second, lock down your finances. Today. Now, if she's going lawyers first, she's planning something. Casper had been through his own divorce mess 5 years back. Lost half his business to a wife who'd never set foot on a construction site. He'd learned the hard way. Then, practicality kicked in. Legal channels meant informal financial arrangements were instantly void. We'd kept our day-to-day finances mostly separate. Something I learned from watching my dad get financially destroyed in his divorce when I was 16. She had her personal account. I had mine. The business was protected under an LLC that predated the marriage. Credit cards? Candace had authorized user cards on my accounts, not joint ownership. Logged into banking apps, found cards, canceled. Reported user no longer authorized. Done. Monthly transfers? I sent $2,500 monthly to her personal account since I earned about 4 times what she made from her part-time social media management hustle. Logged in, canceled recurring transfer effective immediately. Subscriptions? Netflix, Prime, etc. under my name. Logged out all devices. Changed passwords. She wants streaming? She buys it. Vehicle? The SUV she drives is leased in my name. On my insurance. Didn't cancel insurance immediately. Too risky legally. But flagged to discuss lease transfer with my lawyer ASAP. Gas card tied to a canceled credit card. Worthless now. Took maybe 45 minutes total. Not revenge. Just accepting the new reality she dictated. She drew the line. Lawyers only? Done. Lawyers work on formal agreements, not assumptions based on a marriage she just terminated. Casper nodded approvingly as I walked him through what I'd done. Good start. Now call Martinez. Her lawyer's info arrived via email an hour later. Forwarded it straight to Sarah Martinez, the attorney Casper recommended. Emailed Martinez. Received text demanding divorce. Lawyers only. Complied. Need immediate counsel on next steps. Asset protection. Advice retainer. Finished my client drawings. Went home. House was empty. She must have cleared out while I was working. Slept in my own bed for the first time in years. She always complained about my snoring. Slept better than expected. Fast forward 72 hours. Friday afternoon. Unknown number rings. Had a feeling who it might be. Is this Mr. Ian Sullivan? Sharp, impatient voice. This is James Wilson representing Candace Sullivan. My client is experiencing difficulties. Okay, I kept my voice even. Her cards are declined. Access to funds abruptly terminated. Highly irregular, Mr. Sullivan. Financial status quo should be maintained during separation proceedings. Mr. Wilson, I said calmly, your client texted Tuesday demanding divorce, stating all communication must go through you. I acknowledged and complied. Informal financial arrangements ceased. Future support requires formal legal discussion through you and my counsel, Sarah Martinez, whom I've retained. Pause. Papers shuffling. She needs funds now. Necessities. Lodging. He sounded genuinely surprised. Where is she? I asked. Not relevant. You've acted in bad faith by cutting her off without notice. Your client unilaterally ended our marriage via text and established the lawyers-only rule. She ended the status quo of trust and communication. Financial support will be determined legally, not by panic calls over declined cards. She wasn't the primary account holder. Longer pause. My client seeks emergency financial relief, he said stiffly. Her prerogative, I replied. Direct all filings to my attorney. You have her contact information. Yes, he clipped. Good. Conversation concluded, per my wife's directive. Hung up. She wanted cold and legal? She's getting exactly that. Waiting for Martinez's call. This is just the beginning. Casper texted, how'd it go with Martinez? I called him, explained the situation. Wilson's scrambling, Casper said. They expected you to keep paying while they positioned for maximum damage. Classic playbook. My ex tried the same shit. Stay the course. After hanging up, I forwarded Wilson's contact information to Martinez. She called within the hour. Sharp and to the point. Former prosecutor turned divorce attorney with a reputation for handling high-conflict cases. Asked pointed questions about finances, business, history. Your friend's right, she said when I mentioned Casper's advice. This has all the hallmarks of a prepared strategy, not an emotional decision. The text followed by immediate legal representation suggests planning. The lawyer's only demand is particularly telling, creates distance while positioning for emergency support claims. 1 week after the text, things escalated as expected. Martinez got back to me the same day Wilson called. She's sharp. Confirmed my actions were appropriate given Candace's text. Advised document everything. Calls, texts, financial moves. I've started a detailed spreadsheet logging everything. It's strangely satisfying. Wilson's first move came Monday. Formal request for emergency temporary spousal support, plus exclusive use of our house, which she'd already abandoned. The amount? $7,500 monthly. Essentially wanted me to fund her old lifestyle, plus new housing, plus legal fees. Entitlement level. Expert. Martinez responded, countered with $1,800 temporary support based on actual needs, not lifestyle expectations. Noted she voluntarily left the home I still occupy. Highlighted her lawyers-only rule and my actions as direct consequence of her instructions. Then the personal attacks began. Candace's best friend Kelsey called Wednesday night. Answered hoping for information. Mistake. Ian, what the actual F? No hello. Hi, Kelsey. Don't Kelsey me. Candace is sleeping on my couch. You cut her off completely. She couldn't even buy groceries yesterday. You're making her homeless. Kelsey, Candace demanded divorce via text. Lawyers only. I respected her wishes. Bullshit. You know she barely makes anything. How's she supposed to live? She's freaking out. Her social media gig brings in $1,200 cash monthly. Money she had before hiring a lawyer without talking to me. I said financial matters go through him and my lawyer. The exact process she chose. Cruel, vindictive asshole after 12 years. She was emotional. Made a mistake. Sending lawyers-only instructions is a very specific mistake. So was hiring Wilson. Silence. Then, she deserves support. You always took care of her. And would have discussed things like adults if she hadn't torched our marriage by text and lawyered up. She set the rules. We follow them now. So now I'm the villain for following explicit instructions. The story she's spinning is pure victimhood. Then Heather entered the picture. Got a Facebook message. Hope you're proud, forcing my sister to sleep on a couch while you hoard all the money. Real big man. I didn't respond, but I did screenshot it. Added to the legal file. My phone rang 20 minutes later. Heather again. Let it go to voicemail. You think you're so clever cutting her off like this? Candace gave you the best years of her life and this is how you repay her? By being a petty little man? She'll take everything in court and you know it. For someone who supposedly hates men, she sure wants her sister to keep benefiting from one. Casper came by the shop with lunch the next day. Heard anything from Wilson? Just the emergency filing. I showed him the paperwork. $7,500 a month. He nearly choked on his sandwich. Jesus Christ. That's more than most people make. Candace is used to a certain lifestyle, I said, mocking Wilson's country club tone. Yeah, one funded by your 80-hour work weeks and busted knees from those pipeline days. Casper had worked a season with me in North Dakota. Knew exactly what that life was like. Remember that Christmas you worked straight through because the company offered triple time? Candace was pissed you missed her family dinner, but sure enjoyed the spa weekend you paid for in January. Yep, I remembered that winter vividly. Minus 40 degrees, welding sections of pipeline while standing in slush. Fingers so cold they wouldn't bend properly for days afterward. Candace got a weekend at a 5-star resort. I got permanent damage in my right knee. This is why I told you to call Martinez, Casper said. She understands what guys like us go through to build something. Wilson's probably never had a callus in his life. Got a bank alert the day before. Attempted withdrawal from an old savings account we'd opened for a vacation fund years ago and completely forgotten. Had about $3,200 sitting there. Candace apparently found the debit card and tried to empty it. Bank flagged the sudden activity on the dormant account. Went directly to the branch. Explained the pending divorce. Froze the account pending legal agreement. Not about the money. It's the principle. While her lawyer screams bad faith at me, she's trying backdoor channels. Martinez says this actually helps us. Shows Candace isn't just passively waiting, but actively circumventing the process she demanded. Also getting texts from her brother Tom now. We used to be close. I taught him welding basics, helped him get his first union job. Now it's, man, why you gotta be so cold? She's family. My reply, was family. Her choice, her rules. Haven't heard back. Another relationship casualty. Waiting for the emergency support hearing date. Candace still crashing at Kelsey's. Wilson must be realizing his client expected a blank check. Not reality. Feeling less shock? More grim determination? This is going to be rough. It got dirtier. Shocking, I know. Had the emergency support hearing last week? Candace showed up looking stressed, wouldn't meet my eyes. Wilson argued she was destitute, victimized by malicious financial cutting. Martinez calmly presented the text initiating lawyers-only communication. Bank statements showing I canceled supplementary cards, turn allowance tied to my accounts after the text. Proof I maintained mortgage, utilities, lease payments, insurance, all major fixed costs. Evidence of her attempt to drain the forgotten joint account after demanding lawyers handle everything. Her income statements proving she wasn't destitute, just missing discretionary funds. Brian, my shop foreman who's known us both for years, came as a character witness. Testified that I'd always been transparent about finances, never controlling. That Candace had free spending, frequent girls' trips, salon visits. Brian had been with me since the early days. Remembered when the shop was just me, a TIG welder, and a beat-up truck. Watched me build everything through pure grind. Knew Candace showed up once the business was profitable. He testified about the night before a major installation, when I was sick with food poisoning but worked through it anyway, vomiting between welds, because missing the deadline would have killed our reputation. Candace had complained I was being dramatic when I got home at 3 a.m. Judge wasn't buying Wilson's theatrics. Asked Candace directly why no prior discussion before the text. She mumbled something about feeling intimidated. I almost laughed. I'm the quiet one in our relationship. Judge seemed skeptical too. At one point, Candace claimed I controlled every aspect of her life and she needed to escape. Martinez smoothly pulled out Instagram posts from 2 months ago. Candace's weekend spa trip with her friends that I'd paid for. Captioned, "Freedom weekend, thanks hubby." Yeah, I'm just the worst prison warden ever. Look at these credit card statements, Martinez directed the judge. Hair salon, $220. Clothing, $430. Dining out with friends, $380. All in 1 month. All paid by Mr. Sullivan while he drove a 10-year-old truck and worked 60-hour weeks. I noticed Candace flinch as the numbers were read. She'd always insisted those expenses were normal for a woman my age. Funny how they sounded different in a courtroom. Result? Temporary support ordered at $2,200 monthly, way closer to our figure than theirs. Enough for basics, partial legal fees, but zero funding for her old lifestyle. Judge specifically noted Candace's own actions. The text, the account drain attempt, contributed to her current situation. Dodged a bullet. But they weren't finished. Walking to my truck after court, Heather was waiting, arms crossed, designer sunglasses hiding what I assume were daggers for eyes. "This isn't over," she hissed as I walked past. "She should have left you years ago." "Funny," I replied without breaking stride. "I was just thinking the same thing about you." As I drove off, my phone pinged. Heather had tagged me in a Facebook post. "Some men think financial abuse is acceptable. Some judges enable it. The system is broken." Complete with crying emoji. Sent the screenshot to Martinez with witness intimidation? She replied, "Keep collecting these." Building the pattern. Then Tom showed up at my shop, unannounced, during business hours. "Need to talk," he said, walking past my receptionist Jeff, who gave me the, "Should I call cops?" look. I waved him off. "Working here, Tom. Make it quick." "You're ruining her life," he said, glancing around at my employees pretending not to listen. "All she wanted was some space to figure things out. Didn't expect you'd go nuclear." "Space?" I laughed. "She hired a divorce attorney before texting me. That's not space. That's an ambush. You could still support her while you work through this." He pushed. "We are working through it. Legally. As she demanded. Support is court-ordered now. It's not enough. It's what the judge decided was fair based on actual needs, not wants. You might want to ask why your sisters planned this expecting me to keep funding everything." "Sisters?" He looked confused. "Heather's been coaching this for years. Ask Candace." He left looking troubled. One potential ally neutralized. Casper stopped by that evening with drinks and pizza. Heard about the hearing. Martinez kicked ass. She did. Candace looked shocked when the judge only gave her $2,200. "They always are," Casper said, opening drinks. "My ex demanded $12,000 a month. Judge gave her $3,200 and told her to get a job. She cried for days, according to our daughter. What pisses me off is that I would have been reasonable if she'd just talked to me," I said. Instead, she went for the ambush. "That's Heather's influence," Casper replied. "She's been telling Candace you're the enemy for years. Saw it at your anniversary party last year. The way Heather watched you, like she was cataloging evidence." He was right. Heather had been there every step, nudging Candace away from me. Small comments about my work hours. Questions about our finances that created doubt. Suggestions that other husbands gave their wives more freedom. A slow poison that Candace eagerly drank. Next week, the real games started. Dirty trick number 1. Call to my business line. Anonymous complaint to the welding certification board alleging unsafe practices and code violations. Thankfully, my shop passes regular inspections with flying colors. Quick visit from inspector, walkthrough, clean bill. Clear attempt to mess with my livelihood. Low blow. Martinez noted it. Tough to prove anonymous source, but adds to pattern. Dirty trick number 2. Candace's parents called. Tears. Accusations. How could you? She's struggling. Judge unfair. Give her more money. Think of the years she gave you. Same response. Candace chose this path. Lawyers handle financials as she requested. Can't discuss. Called heartless. Hung up. Relentless emotional manipulation. They really thought I'd just keep paying forever. My response? Sticking to logic under pressure. Their tactics just clarified the situation. Simply reacting wasn't enough. Needed to proactively secure my position legally and shut down avenues for manipulation. Strictly by the book. The SUV, Martinez sent Wilson a letter. Temporary support established. Candace needs to handle the vehicle. Take over lease if qualified or return it. I stop payments next cycle. Insurance coverage, which I'd maintained, would cease concurrently. 30 days. Her problem to solve within the legal framework she created. The house, filed for formal exclusive use since she left and judge didn't grant it to her. Started valuation process for sale, docs buyout. Buyout unlikely given her finances. Establishing clear legal control. Asset division. Pushing for immediate full financial discovery. Suspect hidden assets. Time for transparency, legally mandated. Hiding things means trouble with the court. Documenting harassment. Logged every manipulative call, the business complaint, dates, times, summary. Martinez says pattern of bad faith tactics influences final settlement. Legal fees. It's not about revenge. It's about methodically managing the situation within the legal boundaries she established, especially now that they're resorting to underhanded tactics. The business complaint crossed a line, making decisive legal countermoves essential. Candace texted me directly the day before, breaking her own rule. Ian, you can't take the SUV. How will I get anywhere? Paul, stop this. Screenshot. Sent to Martinez. Replied, Candace, per your instructions, date, all communication via lawyers. Contact Wilson. Silence. Month 4 of this disaster. The SUV situation exploded like I predicted. Quick background, it's a 2021 Ford Explorer leased in my name, about $580 a month plus insurance. Candace always drove it. I have my own F-150 for work that's paid off. The lease has another 18 months. After court-ordered temporary support was established, Martinez gave Wilson the 30-day notice about the SUV. Options were clear. 1. Candace qualifies for lease takeover and transfers everything to her name too. She returns the vehicle to me or the dealership. 3. She finds alternative transportation. Wilson responded arguing transportation necessity and demanded I continue payments indefinitely as additional support outside the court order. Martinez shut that down fast. Candace ignored the deadline completely. Kept driving the SUV, probably figured I wouldn't actually stop paying. Wrong. When the next payment date hit, I did exactly what I said. No payment. 2 weeks later, got the angry call from the leasing company. Explained the situation, told them I'm not responsible for the vehicle's current location as I don't have physical access to it. Gave them Candace's info and explained she's an unauthorized driver refusing to return the vehicle. They weren't happy. 3 days after that, Kelsey called screaming that repo men took the SUV from her driveway while Candace was at yoga. Apparently, Candace had been hiding it at Kelsey's place, thinking they wouldn't find it there. That's what happens when you ignore legal letters and court orders, I said before hanging up. An hour later, my work email got hit with a message from Heather. My sister is stranded with no transportation because of your vindictive games. Hope you feel better now, jerk. Casper stopped by that afternoon. Caught me reading Heather's email. More bullshit from the Hell Sister? Yep, the SUV got repossessed. She's losing it. He laughed. Remember when I warned you about her at your wedding? You said I was paranoid. He had. At the reception, he'd pulled me aside after seeing Heather corner Candace 3 separate times. That sister's gonna be trouble, he'd said. Way she looks at you? Like she's already planning the divorce. I'd dismissed it as drunk talk. Wilson filed another emergency motion claiming I'd stolen the vehicle. Judge shut it down immediately after Martinez showed the notification letters and court transcripts. Judge actually looked annoyed with them for wasting court time. After court, Heather was waiting again. This time with Candace, who looked away when she saw me. Heather marched right up. You think you're so clever with your lawyer and your paperwork? She snarled loud enough for others to hear. Men like you always find ways to twist the system. I looked her dead in the eyes. Unlike you, Heather, the system doesn't care about gender, just facts. She turned red. You son of a... Is there a problem here? Martinez appeared at my side, phone recording subtly in her hand. Heather stormed off, dragging Candace with her. Martinez smiled. Another exhibit for our harassment file. Candace is now Ubering everywhere, apparently, and her parents are driving her sometimes. She's telling everyone I took her transportation in a cruel move. What she doesn't mention, she refused to handle the situation properly for over a month despite multiple notices. I feel bad for the leasing company dealing with this mess. They're charging me penalties for the repossession, but Martinez says we can include those in our final settlement demands as damages directly resulting from Candace's actions. It's exhausting having to document every damn thing, but it's paying off. Every interaction just digs her hole deeper. 5 months in, the financial discovery phase has been revelatory. When we started the process, Candace submitted financial disclosures claiming she had her personal checking account with roughly $900, some clothes, personal items, and that's it. Poor victimized Candace with nothing to her name. Martinez pushed for comprehensive discovery, bank statements going back 3 years, tax records, investment accounts, everything. Wilson fought it, claiming harassment and unnecessary burden. Judge ordered full disclosure. What turned up was interesting. A separate savings account at a credit union with $22,400. Account opened 3 years ago. Regular deposits. Cryptocurrency holdings worth about $9,800. Purchased during our marriage. Regular cash deposits to her checking account that didn't match her reported income. About $500 to $800 extra most months. Emails between Candace and Heather, spanning back 2 years, showing systematic undermining of our marriage. Some highlights. 2 years ago. Heather, he makes you ask for money like a child. That's financial abuse. Candace, it's just our budget system. I agreed to it. Heather, classic victim mentality. He's conditioned you. 18 months ago. Heather, Greg at my office got divorced and his wife got everything including his retirement. You should talk to his lawyer. Candace, we're not getting divorced. Heather, just saying know your options. Men hide money. 8 months ago. Heather, does he even know about that Nordstrom shopping trip? See, you're already hiding things because he's made you afraid. Candace, I'm not afraid, just avoiding an argument. Heather, that's fear. Normal marriages don't operate like that. 5 months ago. Heather, you need your own safety net. Start putting cash aside where he can't track it. Candace, that feels dishonest. Heather, it's not dishonest, it's self-protection. All men are financial predators. The most damning email, dated just 2 weeks before, the text. Heather, Wilson says do it exactly like we discussed. Text only, no face-to-face. Demand lawyers only communication. He'll cave within days and you'll maintain lifestyle during negotiations. Men always fold when confronted legally. Guess where that $500 to $800 extra per month was coming from? Heather's safety net contributions. The text didn't just show Heather suggesting divorce. They showed she'd orchestrated the entire ambush strategy. Wilson claimed the savings was separate property from gifts from her parents. The crypto was independent investment she'd researched herself. The cash deposits were small social media jobs, done off the books, all conveniently undocumented. Martinez methodically dismantled this. The savings account had been funded partly through transfers from our joint account before we stopped using it. Documented. The crypto was purchased using our Amazon credit card rewards points. Documented. The small jobs were never reported on taxes, raising other issues. Meanwhile, I've been in our house alone, maintaining it, documenting everything. Got it appraised, worth about $95,000 more than purchase price. Martinez filed for it to be considered a marital asset for 50-50 split, despite Candace trying to claim she contributed more through decorating. Laughable, since I did all renovations, including building the custom kitchen island she loved showing off on Instagram. Casper came over to help me change out the water heater that weekend. How's the case looking? He asked as we carried the old unit out. Better every day, I said. Heather's emails are a goldmine. Judge is gonna love them. Told you she was toxic. Casper had always been wary of Heather. Woman's got more venom than a rattlesnake farm. Candace is claiming she contributed more to the house because she picked the paint colors, I said, setting down the heater. Casper snorted. Yeah, and I invented Tesla because I drive one. She was shopping while you were installing cabinets with a separated shoulder. He remembered that weekend. I'd fallen off a ladder at work, but still finished the kitchen installation because we couldn't afford contractors. The anonymous certification board complaint came back to bite them too. My security cameras caught Heather's car driving past my shop the morning of the complaint. Direct connection. Martinez added it to our documentation of harassment. That triggered another social media blast from Heather. When a man can't win fairly, he fabricates evidence. Stay strong, sister. Right. I fabricated your Ford Edge driving by my shop 3 times. Magic powers. Throughout all this, Candace has been playing victim to anyone who'll listen. Mutual friends have been calling asking if I'm really leaving her homeless and broke. I just refer them to the court records, which are public. Few call back after actually reading them. One night, after a grueling day of depositions, I found a note taped to my workshop door. We all know what you did. Heather's handwriting, according to birthday cards stored in my filing cabinet. Security cameras caught her. Another piece for the file. I've lost some friends who took her side without question. Good riddance. The ones who've stuck around have been surprisingly supportive, especially the guys who've been through similar divorces. My brother's been solid too. Lets me vent, doesn't judge, reminds me to hit the gym and keep focused. We're approaching mediation. Martinez thinks we're in a strong position. The hidden assets, documented harassment, the lawyer's only demand, followed by direct contact, Heather's orchestration. It all paints a picture the judge has clearly noticed. Candace's victim narrative is collapsing under the weight of documentation. Update. All right, Reddit. I'm back with the final update. 7 months since the text "I want a divorce" and it's finally over. The divorce is finalized. The last 2 months were legal trench warfare. Wilson delayed. Candace played the victim, rejected reasonable offers. We were headed for a contested trial. Judge signaled clear impatience with Candace's tactics in pretrial conferences. Facing a worse outcome plus potentially paying my legal fees, Candace finally agreed to settle. But I wasn't settling for the standard package anymore. Too much had happened. Martinez and I crafted something special for this situation. Final settlement. I kept the house by buying Candace's half at 15% below market value, justified by her hidden assets and harassment. My business remained 100% mine, with her contribution claims completely dismissed. All hidden assets were declared marital property, with a 65-35 split favoring me as penalty for concealment. Her SUV lease was terminated with $4,800 in fees and penalties assigned solely to her. She got zero spousal support due to her hidden income, deliberate planning, and bad faith tactics. She's responsible for 40% of my legal fees on top of her own. And most satisfyingly, a 3-year restraining order against Heather prevents her from contacting me or coming near my business and residence. Martinez's masterstroke using the documented harassment pattern. The day after the judge approved everything, Candace showed up at my workshop. Jeff called me to the front. She looked terrible. Dark circles, weight loss, designer clothes replaced by Target basics. Can we talk? Please? Her voice cracked. The settlement is destroying me. I can't afford my apartment. My credit is ruined. Should have thought about consequences before the ambush divorce. Heather convinced me that I'd fold and fund your new single life? Yeah, we saw the emails. I'll lose my apartment, she sobbed. Not my problem anymore. We were married for 12 years, and you ended it with less consideration than canceling a magazine subscription. She touched my arm. I still love you. I laughed. No, you love what I provided. I nodded toward the door. You need to leave. Where am I supposed to go? I hear Heather has a spare room. This isn't you. You're not this cold. I adapted to the rules you set. Turns out I'm pretty good at them. As she turned to leave, I added, by the way, those emails where Heather called me financially abusive while helping you hide money, all part of the court record, public document, your friends can read them anytime. The look of horror on her face was worth every penny of legal fees. The aftermath. Candace is living with her parents now. Her social accounts went dark after several friends discovered the truth in the court records. Heather got demoted at work. Turns out falsely reporting a certified business to regulatory authorities has consequences. The restraining order means she can't even drive past my shop or house. Candace texts periodically despite the settlement terms. Last one. I lost everything because of a stupid mistake. Please help me. I don't reply. The only response is the automatic transfer from her account to mine for the legal fees she owes. Monthly reminder of the price of betrayal. Tom came by the shop last week. Awkward at first, but he'd read the court documents. I had no idea what they were planning, he said. Man, I'm sorry. We're slowly rebuilding that friendship. He's the only one from her family worth keeping. Casper brought drinks to celebrate when the final paperwork came through. We sat in my garage workshop, the same place I'd been the night I got the text. Remember when you were just starting out? He asked. Working pipeline during the day? Setting up the shop at night? Candace complained you never took her anywhere nice. I nodded. Those early years were brutal. 80-hour weeks split between the day job and building the business. Candace had been constantly comparing our lifestyle to her friends' marriages. Never mind that those guys were 10 years older with established careers. You built something real, Casper said, gesturing around the shop. Something solid. She never appreciated what that took. He was right. Me? 7 brutal months. Expensive. Stressful. But I'm good. Better, actually. Business is growing. Bought a Harley last month. Something Candace always vetoed as too dangerous and midlife crisis-ish. Take it out every weekend. Feels damn good. No dramatic revenge, just steady, grinding consequences of her choices meeting logical, legal resistance. The fact that she's broke and living with her disappointed parents while watching me thrive is justice I couldn't have designed better myself. She wanted formal and legal? She got it, with all the cold reality that entails. In the words of my shop sign, measure twice, cut once. She measured wrong, and the cut was permanent. Story 2. Mom moved in her new husband and his kid sent me to grandparents. Years later, they tried to take my house. So when I was a kid, like around 6 or 7, my mom got remarried to this guy named Nick. At first, it seemed like a good thing because, maybe having another parent around would make life feel more complete. I was wrong, though. Nick wasn't just bringing himself into our lives. He had a son too, Ben, who was 6 years older than me. And let me tell you, the minute they moved in, it was like I was suddenly invisible. I still remember that first day they officially moved in. Mom was all smiles, helping Nick and Ben set up their rooms, hanging up family photos on the walls. But when I looked at those photos later, it was all pictures of them, Mom, Nick, and Ben. Not a single picture of me. It felt weird, Like, how can you call it a family when you don't even include your own kid? But things got clearer as time went on. Mom started acting like Ben was her world. She'd make his favorite meals, help him with homework, and even go to his soccer games, all while I was sitting at home alone. I'd ask her, "Hey, can I come too?" And she'd make up excuses, saying it was just for them or Ben's having a special day. It felt like no matter what I did, I was just extra. And Ben, he was no help either. He made sure I knew I wasn't welcome. He'd walk past my room and say stuff like, no one really wants you here. And if I ever told Mom or Nick about it, they'd just shrug it off like, oh, he's just being a boy. Or even worse, they'd tell me to be the bigger person and show Ben some respect because he was my big brother. They expected me to respect someone who was making my life a living hell. I tried to ignore it, but it wasn't easy. Ben had this way of making every day feel like I was walking on eggshells. He'd take my stuff and hide it, or worse, break it. And when I'd confront him, he'd just laugh and say it was an accident. Once he trashed my favorite dollhouse, a gift from my dad before he left us. I remember crying, trying to glue the pieces back together while Ben just watched, smirking. When I showed Mom, hoping she'd finally get mad at him, she just sighed and told me, maybe you shouldn't leave your things out where they can get ruined. Like, what was that even supposed to mean? Speaking of my dad, that's where things get really twisted. My mom had this weird thing about my dad. She'd always talk about him like he was some monster. And look, I'm not saying he was perfect. He definitely wasn't. I know he drank a lot, and yeah, he cheated on her. But to her, he was the ultimate villain. And somehow, I was guilty by association. I remember one time I must have been around 10, and I was arguing with Ben because he was hogging the TV, like usual. My mom walked in, and instead of stopping him, she looked at me with this cold expression and said, "You're acting just like your father." That one hurt. It's not like I asked to look like him, but every time she looked at me, it felt like she was seeing him instead. It didn't matter what I did. I could get straight A's, keep my room spotless, help out around the house. She always found some way to compare me to him. And it was never in a good way. The more I think about it, the more I realize that she only had energy for Ben. I'd come home from school and the house would smell like fresh cookies, but they weren't for me. I'd find Ben in the kitchen eating a whole batch Mom had baked just for him. When I asked why I couldn't have any, she'd say something like, "These are for Ben. You know he needs to keep his strength up for soccer." I wasn't even allowed to have a single one. And the worst part? There were times when Nick and Mom would take Ben out for special outings. They'd go to amusement parks, movies, sometimes even weekend trips. I remember standing in the doorway watching them pack up the car. I'd ask if I could come along, and Mom would give me this half-hearted smile and say, "Maybe next time, sweetie. This one's just for Ben." But that next time never came. I spent a lot of weekends alone, feeling like I was stuck in the background of my own life. The only escape I had was my grandparents. My dad's parents. They were the only people who really made me feel like I mattered. They'd pick me up sometimes on weekends and take me out to their house. We'd bake cookies, and I'd get to eat as many as I wanted. They never treated me like I was a problem or an afterthought. I'd tell them about what was going on at home, how Ben would push me around, and how my mom seemed to have forgotten I existed. My grandpa would listen quietly, his face turning serious, and then he'd say, "You're nothing like your father. You're your own person, and you're better than all of this." Those weekends were like a breath of fresh air. For a little while, I could pretend that I wasn't the unwanted stepchild, that I was just a regular kid with people who loved me. But going back home was always a harsh reality check. The moment I'd walk through the door, it felt like the air got colder. I could feel the resentment coming from my mom, and Ben would be right there, ready to start up again. It was a cycle that just wouldn't end. Looking back, it's easy to see the pattern. My mom made a choice. She chose Nick, she chose Ben, and she chose to leave me on the outside looking in. It wasn't just favoritism, it was straight up neglect. I was like this reminder she couldn't get rid of, a reminder of a past she hated. And instead of dealing with that in a healthy way, she took it out on me. Ben, on the other hand, fed off that energy. He knew he was the golden child, and he used it. He'd find ways to make me feel small, whether it was taking my stuff or spreading lies about me at school. And the few times I tried to stand up for myself, I'd get punished. One time I shouted back at him after he called me worthless. My mom grounded me for a week and told me, "Respect your brother. He's been through a lot." I remember thinking, what about me? Haven't I been through a lot too? But no one ever asked me how I felt. No one cared about the fact that I felt like an outsider in my own home. It was always about making sure Ben was comfortable, happy, and safe, while I was left to fend for myself. It's like they were raising him up while slowly pushing me further and further down. Even now, all these years later, it's hard to shake the feeling that I was never good enough for them. But back then, as a kid, all I wanted was a little bit of what Ben got, a little bit of love, a little bit of attention, but that wasn't in the cards for me. After high school, I knew I needed to get out of that house. I had been counting down the days until graduation like it was my ticket to freedom. The only thing keeping me sane during those years was the thought that, eventually, I could leave and start over somewhere far away from all the mess at home. And honestly, I wouldn't have been able to do it without my grandparents. They were my lifeline. When senior year rolled around, my grandparents made it clear they'd help me get through college. I'll never forget the day they told me. I was sitting at their kitchen table just going on about how stressed I was about my future, because at that point, I didn't even know if my mom was going to help pay for college. It's not like she ever talked to me about it. All I knew was that Ben was getting everything handed to him on a silver platter. New car, college tuition, you name it. My grandpa looked at me and said, "We're going to help you, kid. You deserve a shot at a good life." And just like that, they offered to pay for my college tuition. I couldn't believe it. It felt like a weight had lifted off my shoulders. My mom had barely spoken to me about college plans, but my grandparents had my back without hesitation. The moment I got accepted into college, I knew there was no looking back. I moved in with my grandparents, and I remember feeling this overwhelming sense of relief. It was the first time in my life I felt safe, like I wasn't walking on eggshells anymore. My grandparents' house was small, nothing fancy, but it was cozy, and for the first time in a long time, it felt like a real home. Living with them was completely different from the hellhole I grew up in. They actually asked about my day, cooked meals with me, and showed genuine interest in what I was doing. It was like a whole new world. And for the first time, I felt like I had people who saw me for who I was, not some reminder of past mistakes or someone they had to deal with. I threw myself into college, wanting to make my grandparents proud. My mom, on the other hand, barely even called. The only time I'd hear from her was when she needed something or when she wanted to remind me how great Ben was doing. She'd say stuff like, "You know, Ben got into this amazing business program," or "Ben's doing so well, you should take notes." It was like she had to rub it in my face that he was the successful one. And honestly, it stung, but I'd gotten good at pretending like I didn't care. Nick wasn't any different. He'd show up at family gatherings, the few I actually attended, and go on and on about how proud he was of Ben. It was always, "Ben's this, Ben's that." Not once did he ask me how I was doing or what I was studying. It was like, to them, I was just the kid they had to put up with until I was gone. Well, guess what? I was gone, and it felt amazing. But, the weird thing is, even though I was out of that toxic environment, the damage was still there. I'd still catch myself wondering if my mom ever thought about me or if she'd ever reach out just to ask if I was okay. She didn't. It was radio silence most of the time. And when she did reach out, it was more like she was checking off a box rather than actually caring. I kept myself busy with classes, work, and new friends. I got involved in a few clubs on campus, went out a bit, and for once, I felt like I was actually building a life of my own. But every time I'd get a notification or a message from my mom, I felt that knot in my stomach again, like I was waiting for the other shoe to drop. She'd usually just ask for quick updates, but it was always in this detached, distant tone. I could tell she was just going through the motions. One day, during my second year, she called me out of the blue. It was weird because she never called unless she needed something. I hesitated, but I answered anyway. The conversation was so awkward. She tried to make small talk, asking about my classes and my friends, but it felt so forced. Then she dropped the real reason for her call. She needed money. I was shocked. I mean, I was just a college student barely making enough to pay for my books and rent. She knew that. But apparently, Ben had messed up. She didn't give me the details, just that he needed a little help, and she wondered if I could pitch in. I was stunned. She had no problem asking her daughter, who she practically ignored for years, to help out her precious Ben. I told her straight up, "Mom, I don't have money to spare. I'm barely getting by myself." She sighed, one of those long, exaggerated sighs, and said, "Well, I thought you'd be more responsible now that you're living on your own." I just sat there, speechless. I could feel the anger boiling up, all those years of feeling like I wasn't enough. And now she was making me feel guilty for not bailing out the son she favored over me. After that call, I made a promise to myself to focus on my own life and stop trying to win her approval. It was clear that no matter what I did, it was never going to be enough. So I doubled down on my studies, kept working part-time, and saved as much as I could. The less I talked to her, the better I felt. Fast forward to graduation, and I was doing pretty well. I had a job lined up, and my grandparents were so proud of me. They showed up at my graduation, cheering like I was the only person there. But guess who didn't show up? My mom, Nick, or Ben. I guess I shouldn't have been surprised, but it still hurt, you know? I mean, they showed up to every one of Ben's events, but when it came to me, it was like I didn't exist. After the ceremony, my grandparents took me out for dinner, and we celebrated my achievement. It was one of the happiest moments of my life, and for a little while, I managed to forget about my mom and all the crap from my past. I was just proud of myself for getting through it all. After graduation, my grandparents offered to let me live with them while I got on my feet. I was grateful, of course, but I wanted to have a place of my own eventually. I started working full-time and saving up. My grandparents were always there, supporting me and making sure I had everything I needed. I couldn't have asked for better people in my life. But then, about a year after I started my job, everything changed. My grandpa got really sick. It all happened so fast. One minute he was fine, and the next, he was in the hospital. My grandma was trying to hold it together, but I could see she was struggling. I tried to be there for both of them as much as I could, but it was hard. Losing him was the hardest thing I'd ever gone through. It felt like I'd lost a part of myself. A few months after that, my grandma passed away too. It was like losing the only two people who ever truly cared about me. The house was so quiet and empty without them, but they had left everything to me, their home, their savings, everything. It was overwhelming. I was grateful, but at the same time, I just wanted them back. I moved into their house, and for a while it felt strange, like I was living in a memory. But I made it my own. I painted the walls, redecorated, and turned it into a place that felt like mine. It was bittersweet, but I knew they'd be happy to see me making a life for myself. Living there alone gave me time to think. I finally had space, physical and emotional, to start figuring out who I was without my mom's shadow over me. I still kept in touch, but it was distant. I only felt obligated to do so, not because I really wanted to. And as much as I loved my grandparents and everything they did for me, the absence of my mom's support still lingered in the back of my mind, even if I tried to act like it didn't bother me. So, after a couple of years of living in my grandparents' house and getting used to my new life, I was finally in a place where things felt stable. I had my routine, work, hobbies, hanging out with a few friends, and honestly, it felt good. No drama, no family chaos, just peace. But that all got flipped when Ben decided to pop back into my life out of nowhere. One day, I get a notification on my phone. It was a message request on social media, and it was from Ben. I hadn't heard from him in almost 2 years. We'd pretty much cut off all communication after I moved in with my grandparents. I just figured we'd moved on with our lives separately. So seeing his name pop up kind of threw me off. I remember staring at the screen, debating if I should even open it. Curiosity got the better of me, and I opened the message. It was this long, rambling paragraph. He started off with the usual small talk, asking how I'd been and saying he hoped I was doing well. But it didn't take long for him to get to the point. He and his family were getting evicted. He wrote about how their landlord was kicking them out and they couldn't find another place to live because apparently no one was willing to rent to them. He didn't give much detail beyond that, just that it was bad enough that no one wanted them. He said they'd found a place in a really sketchy area, but he didn't feel comfortable moving his family there, especially with his daughter, Adeline. She's like 4 or 5 now, I think. Anyway, he went on about how unsafe it was and how he was trying to do what was best for her. Then came the big favor. He asked if they could stay with me for a while until they got back on their feet. I'm not gonna lie, my first reaction was just pure confusion. Like, why me? We barely talked as kids, and the few times we did, it was him bullying me. I mean, we weren't exactly close, and since we became adults, he's never reached out unless he needed something. Now, all of a sudden, he's playing the "we're family" card. It just felt weird. I sat there staring at the message, trying to wrap my head around it. Part of me felt bad, but another part of me was annoyed. It's like he was pretending that all the years of him treating me like crap just didn't happen. And the way he phrased it, he acted like he was being so generous by offering to help with rent while staying at my place. But if you're getting evicted, how much could you really afford? Still, I didn't reply right away. I needed to think about it. I told myself, maybe he's changed. But the more I thought about it, the more uneasy I felt. It didn't sit right with me that he'd just pop back up when he needed something. So I let the message sit there for a while. A few days later, he messaged me again, this time with a little more urgency. He said that the situation was getting worse and that they had no options left. He laid it on thick, talking about how his daughter was scared and how they were out of time. He mentioned that my house was perfect for them because of the extra bedrooms and the big backyard, which would be great for Adeline. He even tried to sweeten the deal by saying they'd stay out of my way because of our different work schedules. I finally decided to reply. I started off by saying that I was sorry he was going through all that, but I wasn't comfortable with the idea of them moving in. I explained that, given our past and the way he treated me, it just didn't feel right. I tried to be as respectful as possible, but I wanted to be honest. Ben's response was immediate, and man, did he double down. He came back with, "That was years ago. We were just kids. You're really going to hold that against me now?" He went on and on about how I needed to let go of the past and how it was time to move on. He even threw in, "It's not about us, it's about Adeline. She's innocent in all this." I felt myself getting frustrated. It was like he was twisting everything to make me feel guilty, like I was the bad guy for not wanting to open my home to him. And the way he kept bringing up his daughter felt manipulative. I mean, I get it. No kid should have to suffer for their parents' mistakes. But was that really my responsibility? I told him again that I wasn't comfortable with the idea and that my answer was final. That's when he flipped. He went from trying to guilt trip me to straight up accusing me of being heartless. He wrote, "I thought you'd changed, but clearly you're still as selfish as you were when we were kids." He even said I was acting just like my father. That one stung because he knew exactly how my mom used to use that line against me. I didn't reply after that. I was done. I blocked him, but that didn't stop the flood of messages from other people. A couple of days later, I started getting texts from family members I hadn't heard from in ages. Somehow, Ben had rallied them up, and they were all coming at me with the same line. "Think about Adeline." It was like a broken record. My aunt texted me saying, "I know you've had your differences with Ben, but Adeline shouldn't have to pay the price." An old cousin messaged me on Facebook, basically repeating the same thing. It felt like everyone was trying to guilt trip me into changing my mind. They all acted like I was the villain for not opening my home to family. But none of these people had been there for me when I needed support. None of them cared when I was the one who felt abandoned. The pressure was getting to me. I started doubting myself, thinking, maybe they're right. Maybe I'm being too harsh. But then I reminded myself that Ben never once apologized for how he treated me as a kid. Not even once. And the fact that he couldn't even acknowledge it now, as an adult, just showed me he hadn't changed at all. The final straw was when my own mom called. She rarely calls unless there's a major issue, so I knew she was going to side with Ben. She didn't waste time getting to the point. She asked me why I was refusing to help my brother. I tried explaining my side, how Ben had always been cruel to me and never took accountability, but she cut me off. She said, "Well, Ben's my son, and I have to prioritize him and his family." It was like a slap in the face. All those years, she made me feel like I wasn't good enough, and now, even as an adult, she was still doing it. She called Ben her son, but talked about me like I was some distant relative. I felt this mix of anger and sadness, but mostly, it was just disappointment. I hung up, realizing that no matter what I did, my mom would never see me as her priority. It was always going to be about Ben. So, I stood my ground. I wasn't going to let him move in, no matter how much they tried to guilt trip me. I knew it wouldn't end well for me if I caved. It felt good to finally say no and stick to it, but I'd be lying if I said it didn't mess with my head. It's hard to shake that feeling of being the bad guy, especially when everyone around you is telling you that you are. So, after I told Ben no and blocked him, I thought things would settle down, but it was just the start of the fallout. Turns out, Ben wasn't done trying to get what he wanted. He must have told everyone in the family about our conversation, and of course, he painted himself as the victim. Suddenly, I was getting bombarded with messages from family members I hadn't heard from in years. It's wild how people who have barely spoken to me in ages were suddenly all up in my business, telling me how disappointed they were in me. My phone kept lighting up with messages like, "How could you turn your back on family?" Or, "Adeline is an innocent child." They acted like I was some heartless monster for not wanting to open my home to a guy who bullied me for years. It was like they all had collective amnesia about the way Ben treated me growing up. One of my cousins, who I haven't talked to in forever, sent me this long-winded Facebook message about how I needed to rise above the past and be the bigger person. It was like they all had the same script or something. I was fuming, but I just ignored most of it. I mean, what's the point? These were people who didn't know anything about what I went through as a kid. They only saw the side Ben showed them, and he was always good at playing the nice guy when he needed to. But then, one day I get a knock at my door, and guess who it is? My mom. I hadn't seen her in person for months, and honestly, I wasn't expecting a visit. She showed up looking all stressed and tired, like she had the weight of the world on her shoulders. I was tempted to just not open the door, but I knew she'd just keep knocking. So I let her in. She wasted no time. She sat down and went straight into this lecture about how I was being selfish, and how Ben was struggling, and as his sister I needed to help. I tried to keep my cool, but it was hard. I told her, "Mom, he treated me like garbage for years. He never even apologized, and now you expect me to just let him move in like nothing happened?" She sighed, like she was exhausted from the conversation already, and said, "People change. He's different now. He's a father, and he's trying his best." And then she pulled the classic line, "You, of all people, should understand what it's like to struggle." That one got under my skin because she knew I struggled, and she didn't do anything about it when I was a kid. I felt my hands shaking, trying to keep myself from snapping at her. I told her flat out, "Ben's never taken responsibility for anything he's done. Not once has he tried to apologize or even acknowledge the way he treated me. And you and Nick just let it happen." She gave me this look, one of those disappointed frowns she always used to give me when I was a kid. "You need to move on. Holding on to grudges won't help anyone," she said, "especially not Adeline." I felt like I was hitting a wall. It was the same story over and over. Blame me for not letting go, but no one ever told Ben to take accountability. I asked her why Ben couldn't stay with her and Nick instead, and she got all defensive. "Well, we don't have the space, and Nick's health hasn't been the best lately." It was just excuse after excuse. She started getting emotional, talking about how Adeline was suffering, and how it broke her heart to see her granddaughter in such a situation. I could tell she was trying to guilt trip me, and for a second, I almost caved. But then, I remembered all the times she ignored me when I needed her most. All the times she sided with Ben, even when he was clearly in the wrong, and it clicked. I wasn't going to be manipulated into fixing their mess. Not this time. I stood up and told her, "I'm sorry, but my answer is still no. I'm not going to let them move in." She stared at me for a moment, and then she just said, "I expected better from you." That hurt more than I thought it would. I was so used to her disappointment, but hearing her say it like that felt like a punch in the gut. But I stayed firm and told her that she had to leave. She got up, grabbed her purse, and as she walked out, she mumbled something about how she couldn't believe how ungrateful I was. I shut the door behind her and felt this mix of anger and relief. It was like, for once, I had stood my ground. But at the same time, I felt this heaviness, like I was the one who did something wrong. Over the next few days, the texts and messages from family members didn't stop. In fact, they got worse. It felt like they were all joining forces to make me feel guilty. A couple of them even started posting vague comments on Facebook about family abandoning family, and some people being so full of pride they forget their roots. It didn't take a genius to figure out who they were talking about. One of my aunts, who I hadn't spoken to since my grandparents' funeral, even called me, leaving this long voicemail about how I needed to forgive and forget because family is all we've got. She went on and on about how Ben was struggling and how it was up to me to do the right thing. But none of these people ever reached out to me when I was struggling. Not when I was alone as a kid, not when my grandparents passed, and definitely not when I was trying to make it through college. It was all about Ben, as always. Eventually, I had to block a few of them because it was getting to the point where it was just harassment. They wouldn't take no for an answer, and I was done explaining myself. I didn't owe them an explanation. I knew that deep down, but it still messed with my head. It's hard not to feel guilty when everyone around you is telling you you're the problem. But then, one day, I ran into an old friend from high school at the grocery store. We started catching up, and she asked how things were going with my family. I told her the whole story, not really expecting much from her, but she surprised me. She looked me dead in the eyes and said, "Good for you. You don't owe them anything, especially not after how they treated you." She reminded me of all the times she'd seen Ben pick on me and how my mom just stood there and let it happen. She said, "You deserve to have your own life without their drama." It was like this huge weight lifted off my shoulders hearing someone else say it. For the first time, I felt like maybe I wasn't the bad guy after all. So, I stuck to my decision. I wasn't going to let them bully me into caving. I started focusing on myself again, ignoring the noise from my family. It wasn't easy, and I still had moments where I felt guilty, but I knew deep down that I made the right choice. Ben didn't reach out again after that, which I was fine with. I figured he'd move on to the next person who would give him what he wanted. And my mom? Well, I knew she was mad, but I wasn't going to chase after her approval anymore. I'd spent too many years trying to get it, and it was never enough. It was tough realizing that sometimes family isn't what you hope it'll be, but in the end, I had to look out for myself. I wasn't going to be used as a doormat just because we shared some DNA. Family should be about mutual support, not taking advantage of someone's kindness. And if standing up for myself meant losing people who never really valued me in the first place, then maybe it wasn't much of a loss at all. So, after everything went down with Ben, my mom, and the whole extended family acting like I was the villain, things went quiet. It was almost unsettling because, for a few weeks, there were no more calls, no texts, and no guilt-trippy messages on social media. It felt weirdly calm. And honestly, I thought maybe, just maybe, they'd finally accepted my decision. But of course, I should have known better. This family doesn't back down that easily. One day, I was coming home from work, and as I pulled into my driveway, I saw this car parked on the street. It took me a second to recognize it, but then I realized it was Ben's car. My stomach dropped. I wasn't expecting any visitors, and I definitely didn't want to deal with him face to face. But there he was, leaning against his car like he had all the time in the world, just waiting. I debated driving off and pretending I didn't see him, but that felt like running away. So I took a deep breath, parked, and got out of the car. The whole time I was bracing myself for whatever excuse or sob story he was going to throw at me. But instead, he just stood there, staring at me like I was some stranger. It was awkward as hell. Finally, he broke the silence and said, "We need to talk." I could tell he was trying to sound calm and collected, but there was this edge to his voice that made me uneasy. I just crossed my arms and said, "Look, if you're here to convince me to change my mind, it's not going to happen." He shook his head, and for a moment I thought he might actually back down. But then he launched into this whole speech about how desperate things had gotten for him and his family. He said they'd been living out of a motel and how they couldn't afford it much longer. He looked so serious, like he was expecting me to just melt and say, "Okay, fine, come on in." But I didn't. I stood my ground. I told him again that I wasn't comfortable with him moving in and that I wasn't going to change my mind. That's when his expression changed. It went from sad and desperate to angry. Like, really angry. He started pacing back and forth, his hands clenching into fists. "You don't get it," he snapped. "We have nowhere else to go, and you have this huge house all to yourself. How can you be so selfish?" I felt my face heat up, but I kept my voice steady. "Ben, this isn't about the space. It's about what you put me through when we were kids, and the fact that you still refuse to take responsibility for it. You can't just waltz in and expect everything to be fine." I thought maybe he'd calm down, maybe realize that I wasn't budging. But instead, he doubled down. "You know what your problem is?" he shot back. "You're stuck in the past. People grow up, they move on, but you're holding on to grudges like we're still kids. I've got a family to think about, and you're acting like a spoiled brat." Hearing him say that, my heart pounded, and my hands started shaking. I wanted to scream at him, to tell him all the things I'd been holding back for years, but I knew that wouldn't solve anything. So I just looked him dead in the eye and said, "This isn't about holding a grudge, it's about protecting myself, and you don't get to tell me how to feel after everything you did." Ben went quiet for a second, and I thought maybe that was it, that maybe he'd finally leave. But instead, he just laughed, this bitter, mocking laugh. "Fine," he said. "You want to act all high and mighty, go ahead. But don't come crying to me when you need help someday. Family is supposed to be there for each other. And then he just stormed off, got into his car, and drove away. I stood there in the driveway, feeling a mix of anger and relief. Part of me was glad he was gone, but another part of me was furious. Furious that he had the nerve to try and guilt trip me again, like I was the one in the wrong for setting boundaries. The next few days were quiet again, and I thought maybe he finally got the message. But then, a week later, I came home to a surprise. Someone had egged my front door. It was a mess. Eggshells and yolks splattered all over. My first thought was that it had to be Ben or one of his friends. Who else would do something like that? I felt this wave of frustration wash over me. It was like I couldn't escape his anger, even when he wasn't physically around. I took pictures of the damage, cleaned it up, and immediately called the police to file a report. I knew it probably wouldn't go anywhere, but I wanted something on record in case things escalated. After that, I decided to install security cameras around the house. I wasn't taking any chances. If Ben or anyone else tried anything again, I wanted proof. I'd had enough of feeling like I was the one in the wrong when all I was doing was protecting my own space and peace of mind. Once the cameras were set up, I felt a bit more at ease, but it didn't stop the tension from hanging over me. I kept checking my phone, half expecting another wave of guilt trip messages or an accidental run-in with Ben, but instead I got silence. Then, out of nowhere, I got another call from my mom. She hadn't spoken to me since the last time she came over, so I was pretty sure this was going to be another lecture. I considered ignoring it, but I figured I should at least hear her out. Maybe she'd finally get it. Well, I was wrong, again. The moment I answered, she jumped right in. "I heard what happened with Ben. You can't keep turning your back on family like this," she said. It was like she didn't care about my side at all. I told her about the egging, and instead of being concerned, she brushed it off. "Oh, don't be dramatic. It was probably some kids messing around." I couldn't believe it. She was defending him, even when I had proof of his behavior escalating. "Mom, I know it was him. Who else would do this?" I said, trying to keep my voice steady. But she just sighed and said, "You've made your choice. I hope you don't regret it when you're the one who needs help someday." That was it. I realized then that no matter what I said, no matter how many times I tried to explain myself, she was never going to see things from my perspective. Ben was her priority, and nothing was going to change that. So, I told her, if that's how you feel, then maybe it's better if we don't talk for a while. She didn't even argue. She just said, "Fine," and hung up. I felt this huge mix of emotions, anger, sadness, but also a strange sense of relief. It was like I finally accepted that I wasn't going to get the support I'd been hoping for from her or anyone else in that part of the family. Since then, things have been quiet. I haven't heard from Ben, and my mom stayed out of my life. I still get the occasional message from extended family, but I've learned to ignore it. I've focused on building my life on my own terms, without needing their approval or validation. The cameras have given me some peace of mind, and I'm making my house feel more like my own safe space again. I've come to terms with the fact that sometimes family isn't the people you share blood with. It's the people who genuinely care about you, who don't try to manipulate or guilt trip you into doing things you're not comfortable with. At the end of the day, I don't regret my decision. It's hard, and it's lonely sometimes, but I know I did the right thing by standing my ground. I don't owe anyone my peace, not even family, and if that means some doors are permanently shut, then so be it. I'd rather be alone than surrounded by people who don't respect my boundaries. Story 3. This story is titled, "My Cheating Ex-Wife Showed Up to Our Divorce Hearing, Holding Hands with My Brother. She thought it would secure her a payout until the judge asked one question." Hey everyone! Before we jump into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed the channel is losing some traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and it helps us keep bringing you awesome content. Your support means the world. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much. Now let's start the video. Okay, Reddit, get ready because this is going to be a long one. Seriously, grab some drink or whatever because this shit is wild. Like one of those crazy movies where you're like, this can't be real, except it actually happened to me. First off, some background, I guess. Me, 32 male, and Anna, 31 female, were what everyone called the perfect couple. You know the type. College sweethearts, dated for 4 years, married for 3, had our whole lives planned out and everything. I'm a software dev. Yeah, typical Reddit guy, lol. And she works, or worked, I guess, in marketing. We had this nice house in one of those cookie-cutter suburbs where all the houses look the same, but everyone pretends they're special. We even had the whole white picket fence life going. 2 dogs, Max and Bella, both rescue mutts cause we're those people. A garden she never took care of but insisted on having, and one of those fancy Peloton bikes that ended up being an expensive clothes hanger. Living the millennial dream, right? I actually met Anna at this super lame frat party in college. I was this awkward CS major, and she was this gorgeous marketing major who was way out of my league. Like the kind of girl that passed me would have been too scared to even talk to. But I was drunk enough to try this terrible pickup line about Java, and coffee CS majors will get it. And instead of cringing, she actually laughed. Still don't know if it was a pity laugh, but hey, it worked. We started hanging out, and things just clicked. She was into all the nerdy stuff I was into. Later found out she was faking most of it, but that's a whole other story. And we had this thing where we'd binge watch entire seasons of shows in one weekend. The Office was our jam. We even did Jim and Pam costumes for Halloween one year. Cringe, I know, but we were that couple. I busted my ass in the relationship, NGL. Like I was that guy who remembered not just anniversaries, but random stuff like first pizza date, or first time we went grocery shopping together. Stupid stuff, but she used to love it. I'd plan these elaborate date nights, surprise her with little gifts for no reason, even learn to cook her favorite pasta from scratch. Spent like 6 hours watching YouTube videos to get it right. The first 2 years of marriage were actually pretty great. We'd cook together on Sundays. Well, I'd cook and she'd supervise while drinking coffee and playing on her phone. But it was our thing. Weekends were for hiking with the dogs or having these epic game nights with our friends. We were that annoying couple that posted everything on Instagram with stupid captions like, living my best life with my person. Mostly her posting, but I played along. Our friends used to joke that we were couple goals. You know, the kind that makes single people want to throw up. I even got along great with her family at first. Her dad and I would watch football together, even though I don't really care about sports, but you do what you gotta do. And her mom was always trying to feed me these amazing Italian dishes because she thought I was too skinny. Her brother became one of my gaming buddies. We'd play COD every Thursday night. My family loved her too. Like, really loved her. My mom was always saying how she finally had the daughter she always wanted. Sorry, Jenny. I guess being my actual sister wasn't enough. My brother Ryan and Anna got along super well. We had all these plans, you know? Talking about having kids in a couple years, looking at houses in better school districts, even started a savings account for a down payment. Anna had names picked out for our future kids. Which, thank fuck that didn't happen. We were doing everything right according to society's little checklist. I remember this one night, maybe 6 months before everything went to shit, we were sitting on our back deck, planning our future, talking about growing old together, traveling once we retired, all that naive romantic crap you think about before life kicks you in the teeth. Man, if I could go back and tell myself what was coming. But yeah, that was the beginning. The calm before the storm, I guess. Looking back now, there were probably red flags I missed, but isn't that always how these stories go? When you're wearing rose-colored glasses, all the red flags just look like flags, right? Saw that quote on Reddit, actually. Pretty fitting. So around year 3 of marriage, things started changing. It was subtle at first. You know how it is. Those little things you notice but try to convince yourself aren't a big deal? Anna started working late. Like, a lot. And I'm not talking about regular big project at work, late. I'm talking about coming home at 10 p.m., smelling like she took a bath in someone else's cologne. But stupid me, I actually believed her excuses about client dinners and team building events. I should have known something was up when she started dressing up way more for these work events than she ever did for our date nights. Speaking of date nights, those became a joke. We used to have this rule about Friday being our night. No phones, no work, just us hanging out and doing whatever. But suddenly, every time I planned something, she'd either be too tired or she'd spend the whole time on her phone. I remember this one time I spent like 3 hours cooking this fancy steak dinner, got the recipe from r/cooking, and she barely looked up from her phone the whole time. When I called her out on it, she got all defensive like, God, can't I check my work emails? Some of us have important jobs. Yeah, because apparently my software dev job at a Fortune 500 company was just me playing Minecraft all day or something. Remember those cute little things we used to do? The random memes we'd send each other all day? The inside jokes? The stupid TikTok dances she used to make me do? All gone. She stopped asking about my day, stopped caring if I ate lunch, stopped doing basically anything that showed she gave a crap about me as a person. Even the dogs noticed something was up. Max and Bella used to be her babies. She was the one who insisted on adopting them. But suddenly she couldn't be bothered to walk them or play with them. It was always, I'm too tired. Or you do it, they're your dogs too. They started getting really mopey when she was around. like they could sense something was wrong. The weird part? She was still totally into family gatherings and stuff. Like, really into them. Always asking when we were going to my parents next, wanting to hang out with my brother Ryan, acting all perfect daughter-in-law in front of my mom. Meanwhile, my sister Jenny was giving me these looks like she wanted to tell me something but couldn't. Should have pushed her harder about that. But honestly, I didn't want to know. I tried talking to Anna about all this. Multiple times, actually. But every conversation went the same way. One day, I sat across from her, feeling the weight in my chest grow heavier. I feel like we're drifting apart. My voice was careful, but the words still felt like they might crack under the pressure. She rolled her eyes, barely glancing up from her phone. Oh my God, you're so needy. I'm just busy with work. Her tone was clipped, dismissive, like I was asking for something ridiculous. I swallowed the frustration bubbling up. I miss spending time together. My words were quieter this time, but I meant them just the same. She sighed, exasperated, like I had asked her to move a mountain. Not everything is about you? I'm stressed, all right? I took a slow breath, steadying myself. Maybe we could try couples therapy. Just to... She scoffed, cutting me off before I could even finish. We don't need therapy. You need to stop being so insecure. Silence stretched between us. She went back to scrolling on her phone. And me? I just sat there, realizing she wasn't busy. She just didn't care. Classic gaslighting, right? But when you're in it, you don't see it that way. I actually started believing maybe I was too needy. Started going to therapy on my own, which actually helped a lot later when everything blew up. What made me more mad is that she was still posting all these happy couple pics on Instagram. Like she'd make me take 50 photos for her to get the perfect, spontaneous shot of us enjoying life, then go right back to ignoring me. Our social media life looked perfect, while our real life was falling apart. Peak millennial marriage problems, I guess. I started noticing other sketchy stuff too. She'd leave the room to take phone calls, changed her phone password, started doing her own laundry, after years of just mixing all our stuff together. Got a gym membership at some fancy place across town when there was a perfectly good gym 5 minutes from our house. You know, the greatest hits of signs your spouse is cheating that you read about but think will never happen to you. My friends tried to warn me. My buddy Mike, who'd been through his own divorce hell, kept saying things like, "Bro, something's not right, and you deserve better than this." But I'd defend her, make excuses. She's just stressed about work, or things will get better once this big project is done. I even tried the whole win her back thing, planned surprise dates, bought her flowers, tried to get back into the hobbies she liked. But you can't win someone back who's already gone, you know? She'd just get annoyed, like I was interrupting her life by trying to be her husband. The final straw was one day. I was doing laundry on a Sunday, because of course I was still doing her laundry like a chump, and I found this receipt in her pants pocket. It was from this fancy Italian place downtown, like the kind where pasta costs more than my monthly Netflix subscription. The receipt was from a Tuesday lunch, which was weird because she told me she had this big client meeting at the office that day. Now, I'm not usually the snooping type. Like, I trusted her stupid ass for some reason. But something about that receipt bugged me. Maybe because she'd been bragging about bringing in all these new clients, but whenever I asked about getting dinner with them, she'd say it wasn't appropriate. But lunch was? Make it make sense. So I did something I'm not proud of. I checked our shared Google timeline thing. You know, that creepy feature that tracks everywhere you go? Yeah, that one. And holy shit, guys. There were a lot of client meetings at hotels, parks, random restaurants, basically everywhere except her actual office. I spent like 3 hours going through her location history. Fun way to spend a Sunday, right? Pattern was pretty clear. Whenever she said she was working late or had team events, she was actually at places like the Marriott downtown or this park on the other side of the city. But here's the thing. I still didn't know who she was with, just that she was definitely not where she said she was. Then I found the burner phone. I wasn't even looking for it. I was grabbing her gym bag to do more laundry, and this old iPhone fell out. Like one of those ancient ones people keep as backups, except this one had a passcode, and when I asked her about it later, she completely freaked out. "Hey, found this old phone in your gym bag? Is it broken or something?" She barely glanced at it before her eyes widened. Then, in a blur, she lunged forward, snatching it from my hands like I was holding classified government secrets. "That's private!" Her voice was sharp, defensive. I blinked. "Private? It's just an old phone." She clutched it to her chest like it was a lifeline. Her entire posture rigid. "God, why are you going through my stuff?" Her voice pitched higher, breath quickening. "This is why I can't trust you." I just stood there, staring. I was the untrustworthy one? She couldn't even look me in the eye. Classic Darvo move right there. She tried to make me feel guilty for finding her sketchy secret phone. But the best part? In her panic to grab the phone, she knocked over her regular iPhone, and it fell face up on the couch. A message preview popped up that just said, "Miss you, baby," from a contact named Work Project. Subtle, right? I didn't even confront her right away. Instead, I spent the next few days watching her. She'd get these messages and smile like a teenager, then look up to make sure I wasn't watching. She'd take calls in the other room, whispering even though she claimed it was just work stuff. One time I heard her giggle and say, "Stop it, you're bad," before noticing me and quickly hanging up. I decided to check our credit card statement, found charges from hotels on days she was supposed to be at client dinners. Like, not even nice hotels. We're talking Holiday Inn Express type places. Classy. That was it for me. I couldn't keep living in this hell, digging after her, seeing signs, and forcing myself to ignore them. She had already checked out of this relationship. I was just the last to admit it. I packed all her stuff while she was at work. Just filled up garbage bags because I was feeling petty. Didn't even fold anything. Left it all in the garage, changed the locks, and sent her a text. Found the burner phone. Saw the hotel charges. Don't come home. We're done. The absolute flood of messages I got after that. Holy shit. First it was denial. What are you talking about? You're being crazy. Let me explain. Then the classic blame shifting. This is why I had to look elsewhere. If you paid more attention to me, you're always working. Then the threats. I'll tell everyone you abused me. You'll regret this. My lawyer will destroy you. Then she showed up at the house, crying and banging on the door. She kept screaming about how I was jumping to conclusions and how she could explain everything. Meanwhile, I'm just sitting there on the couch with the dogs, watching her meltdown on our Ring camera like it's an episode of Real Housewives. The next few days were wild. My phone was blowing up nonstop. Not just from Anna, but from basically everyone we knew. She'd apparently gone on this massive PR campaign, telling everyone her version of events. According to her, I was a controlling psycho who misunderstood everything and was throwing away our marriage over nothing. My family kept calling too. Looking back, their reactions were weird. Like they were too concerned about me jumping to conclusions. My mom kept saying stuff like, marriage takes work and everyone makes mistakes. Even my sister Jenny was being super sketchy. Then Lily showed up at my door. Quick backstory on Lily. She was Anna's best friend since college. Like maid of honor at our wedding, girls' night every week, knew all our secrets kind of best friend. She was always cool, but we weren't really close or anything. Just the usual hey when she'd come over to hang with Anna. So anyway, it's like 11 p.m. I'm on the couch in my pajamas, binge-watching Breaking Bad. 'Cause why not be depressed while watching a depressing show? And my doorbell rings. I check the Ring camera, paranoid about Anna showing up again, and there's Lily, clearly drunk and crying. I sighed and opened the door. You okay? Lily sniffled, wiping at her face with shaky hands. I can't keep lying. Her words were slurred, raw. She's horrible. You're so nice and she's just horrible. She let out a shaky breath, then whispered, I just had a fight with her. Her voice cracked, a bad one. I stepped aside. You want to come in? Maybe have some water? She nodded weakly, stumbling inside. The moment she hit the couch, she collapsed into it like all the fight had drained out of her. And then, just like that, the floodgates opened. She's been cheating for months, Lily whispered, voice thick with guilt. I knew, and I didn't say anything. I stiffened. I knew it. I had suspected it for so long, but hearing it out loud still hit hard. Who is it? I asked, my voice steadier than I felt. Lily shut her eyes and shook her head. I can't. Lily, who? She opened her mouth, then closed it again. Her entire body was shaking now. It's worse than you think, she murmured. You're going to hate everyone when you find out. A chill crawled up my spine. My mind was racing, filling in blanks I wasn't sure I wanted answers to. But at this point, I had no choice. We talked for hours. Not just about Anna, but about everything. Love, mistakes, the slow, painful realization that something is over long before you admit it. For the first time, I really saw Lily. Not just as Anna's friend, but as her. The way her dark eyes softened when she spoke, the way she pushed her hair behind her ear when she got nervous. She had this warmth to her, effortless, unforced, the kind I hadn't felt in a long time. She said you deserved better, she whispered. I let out a dry laugh. Funny, she never acted like it. Lily didn't argue. She just looked at me, really looked. And for the first time in years, I felt seen. One thing led to another. And yeah, we kissed. It wasn't revenge. It wasn't about Anna at all. It was warmth after years of cold. The next morning was awkward AF. Lily was super embarrassed about spilling all that stuff, and I was worried I'd taken advantage of her being drunk, even though she was the one who kissed me first. We agreed to keep everything quiet until the divorce was sorted out. But man, that kiss changed everything. Suddenly, I wasn't just angry about Anna cheating. I was actually excited about the future. Like maybe this whole disaster was pushing me towards something better. The next few weeks were a weird dance of secret texts with Lily, avoiding Anna's constant attempts to explain, and dealing with my family's increasingly strange behavior. Everyone seemed to be taking sides, but the sides made no sense. People who should have been on my side were defending Anna, and people I barely knew were reaching out to support me. I hired this badass lawyer named Frank. Not his real name, obviously. First meeting with him, I lay out everything I know. The burner phone, the hotel receipts, the Google timeline stuff. He just sits there nodding, taking notes, then looks up and says, "There's more going on here than you know, but we're going to handle this smart." Frank advised me not to confront anyone yet. Just gather evidence, keep my mouth shut, and wait. He said the truth would come out in court anyway, and it would be better if I didn't show my hand early. Meanwhile, Lily and I kept getting closer. Nothing physical after that first kiss. We both agreed to keep things proper until after the divorce. But we'd text for hours. She'd send me stupid memes at 3 a.m. or links to songs she thought I'd like. It was nice, you know? Just nice. Anna tried every trick in the book to get me to talk to her. Showed up at my work, got banned by security, sent flying monkeys, mutual friends, to guilt trip me. Even tried to use the dogs against me. Suddenly, she missed them so much after barely acknowledging them for months. The weirdest part was how my family was acting. My mom kept inviting me over for dinner, but would get weird when I asked who else would be there. Ryan, my brother, stopped gaming with me online, but was posting pics at family events I wasn't invited to. Jenny was straight up avoiding me. The day before court was straight up chaos. My lawyer Frank called to prep me for what might happen, and dropped this bomb. Just be prepared for anything tomorrow, and I mean anything. When I tried to get more info, he just said, "Trust me, you'll want to be sitting down when this all comes out." I was getting cryptic texts from everyone. My mom sent this weird message like, "I hope you can find it in your heart to forgive." Forgive what? For what? Jenny, my sister, tried calling like 6 times, but kept hanging up before I could answer. Even my buddy Mike, who hadn't talked to me in weeks, sent a, "You holding up okay, bro?" text at like 2 a.m. Lily was being extra weird too. We'd been texting constantly for weeks. Nothing serious, just talking and stuff. But suddenly she got all quiet. Her last message was just, "I'm so sorry. You'll hate me tomorrow. But please remember I wanted to tell you." Then radio silence. I spent that night stress cleaning my apartment. The dogs kept looking at me like, "Dude, chill," but also wouldn't leave my side. We all ended up passing out on the couch watching Kitchen Nightmares cause Gordon Ramsay yelling at people was oddly comforting. Around 3 a.m., I get this email from Anna. Subject line, "Please read before tomorrow." Did I open it? Hell no. Archive that shit faster than my ex could say, "It's not what you think." But I'd be lying if I said I wasn't curious. Then the bomb dropped, a text from my brother Ryan. "Hey man, don't come to court tomorrow. We can settle this without making it messy. I'll explain everything later." I didn't sleep at all that night. Just sat there on my couch, scrolling through old photos on my phone like an idiot. Found this picture from last Christmas. Me, Anna, my whole family. Everyone smiling like we didn't have a care in the world. Weird how life can completely flip upside down in just a few months. Frank texted me around 6 a.m. "Wear your Navy suit. Look successful, but not flashy. And whatever happens in there, do not lose your cool. Let me handle everything." I got to the courthouse early, because anxiety is one hell of an alarm clock. Sat in my car for like an hour, watching people go in and out, wondering how many other people's lives were falling apart in there today. Saw Lily pull up. She looked like she hadn't slept either. We made eye contact, but she just shook her head and went inside. That's when my stomach really started doing flips. Then my parents showed up. Together. Looking stressed AF. My mom tried to wave, but Dad stopped her. They hurried inside like they were late for something. Jenny arrived next, saw my car, and literally ran inside. Like full-on sprinted in heels. That's when I knew whatever was about to happen was going to be bad. Walking into that courthouse felt like walking to my own execution. But holy shit, I had no idea what was waiting for me inside. So there I am, sitting in this fancy-ass courtroom that looks exactly like the ones you see on TV. Frank, my lawyer, is next to me, going through papers like he's searching for the nuclear codes or something. The room's weirdly quiet. You know that heavy silence right before everything goes to hell? Then the door opens. Anna walked in, wearing this innocent white dress like she's auditioning for the role of Virgin Mary or something. But that's not what made my jaw drop. She's holding hands with my brother Ryan. Like full-on holding hands. In court. In front of everyone. In front of me. My brain just stopped. At that moment. All those weird pieces suddenly clicked. The family acting strange. Lily's guilt. Ryan's sudden disappearance from my life. All those client meetings at times when Ryan was supposedly working late too. Frank grabs my arm, cause I guess I started standing up without realizing it. He whispers, "Sit down. Let them dig their own grave." Anna and Ryan sit at the other table with their lawyer, some young dude who looks about as comfortable as a vegan at a BBQ. Ryan won't even look in my direction, but Anna keeps giving me these little side eyes, like she's checking if I'm about to lose it. The judge comes in, older dude, looks like he's seen some shit, and the show begins. Anna's lawyer starts spinning this rom-com worthy bullshit about how love finds a way, and how Anna and Ryan never meant to hurt anyone, but you can't help who you fall in love with. I'm sitting there thinking I'm having a stroke. Like, is this actually happening? Did my brother really just walk into court holding hands with my wife, while their lawyer tries to convince everyone this is some beautiful love story? Then it gets better. Anna starts crying, full on tears about how confused and lost she was in our marriage, and how Ryan was just trying to help her through a difficult time, and things just happened. Just happened? Like what, they just tripped and fell into bed together? Multiple times? At various hotels across town? For months? But here's the best part. Their lawyer tries to argue that the prenup should be void because of emotional distress and family circumstances. Basically trying to say that because Ryan's my brother, all normal rules should go out the window. Frank's just sitting there with this little smile. When it's his turn, he stands up super slowly, straightens his tie, and says, "Your Honor, before we continue, I'd like to present evidence of how this love story actually played out." Then he pulls out this thick folder that I'd never seen before. Starts laying out papers one by one. Screenshots of their text messages. Turns out that burner phone wasn't so secure. Hotel receipts paid with our joint account. Photos of them together from before we separated asterisk bank statements showing Ryan had been helping Anna move money around asterisk a timeline showing they'd been hooking up since freaking Christmas. The judge's face got stormier with each new piece of evidence. But Frank had emails between them planning how to break the news after the divorce was final. They had this whole scheme worked out. Wait until the divorce was done, then go public with their relationship like it just happened. Ryan finally looked at me. Tries to do this "I'm sorry, bro" face. I just stare back until he looks away. Anna's full-on ugly crying now, mascara everywhere. The judge was not impressed. Started asking them really pointed questions about timeline discrepancies, about the money, about their version of events. Every answer just dug them deeper. Then he looks right at them and says, "This court does not look kindly upon deliberate deception. The prenuptial agreement stands." Just like that, all their romantic bullshit, all their planning, all their manipulation, shot down in like 2 minutes. The court drama was over, but my family apparently didn't get the memo that I wanted nothing to do with them. A week after the hearing, my mom started this massive text campaign to bring the family back together. Like somehow a nice pot roast would make me forget my brother was sleeping with my wife. It started with casual texts, "We miss you, honey," then escalated to "Family is forever, and we need to move past this." The final straw was when she sent a group text announcing a family dinner that Sunday. Didn't ask if I wanted to come, just said dinner at 6. Everyone will be there. We're fixing this. I ignored it at first, but then Jenny, my sister, called me crying. Actually crying. "Please come," she sobbed. "Mom's losing it. She's convinced she can fix everything if we just have dinner together like normal." Normal? I laughed. "Jenny, what part of this is normal?" I know, but maybe we should try? For Mom? Is Ryan coming?" Silence. "Is he bringing Anna?" More silence. Yeah, that's what I thought. But something in me snapped. Maybe it was the bourbon I'd been drinking. Maybe it was weeks of pent-up rage. But I decided to go. Not to make peace, I wanted to watch them squirm. I showed up exactly on time. Everyone else was already there, sitting in the living room like it was any other Sunday dinner. Ryan and Anna on the love seat, Mom fussing with appetizers, Dad pretending to watch golf. Jenny saw my face and immediately poured me a drink. Mom tried to play hostess. "Honey, we saved your usual seat." My usual seat. right between Ryan and Dad. Yeah, no. I stayed standing. The silence was thick enough to cut with a knife. Then Ryan, this absolute clown, tries to break the ice. Hey bro, how's work? I just stared at him. Like, did this motherfucker really just ask me about work like he didn't blow up my entire life? Mom jumped in. Let's eat! I made your favorite lasagna. We moved to the dining room. Mom set it up like Thanksgiving. Her best china, fancy napkins, the works. As if good table settings could fix betrayal. Dad tries to say grace. Actually tries to thank God for bringing the family together. I had to bite my tongue to keep from laughing. The first 10 minutes are just the sound of forks scraping plates. Then Mom starts her prepared speech. We're family. Families forgive. Families heal. What happened was unfortunate, but Ryan and Anna are in love. Real love. Sometimes these things... I cut her off. These things what, Mom? Just happen? Like Ryan accidentally fell on my wife? Language! Dad snaps. The first thing he said all night. Oh, I'm sorry, is my language offensive? More offensive than my brother fucking my wife? Anna starts crying. Ryan puts his arm around her. I want to throw up in Mom's fancy lasagna. They're getting married, Mom announces, like this is supposed to make everything better. In June. We'd love for you to be there. I actually laugh out loud. Are you insane? Actually insane? It would mean so much to your brother. My brother? I stand up so fast my chair falls over. The same brother who was screwing my wife while I was taking care of Dad during his cancer scare? Dead silence. Dad didn't know about that part. You were... during my cancer treatment? Dad looks at Ryan like he's seeing him for the first time. Ryan starts stammering. It wasn't... we didn't... Show them the pictures, I say. Jenny looks up. What pictures? I pull out my phone. Open the folder Frank gave me. Start swiping through security camera stills. Ryan sneaking into my house. Anna letting him in. Timestamps telling the whole story. This one's from when Dad was having his first chemo session. Remember that, Ryan? When you said you couldn't come to the hospital because of work? Mom's crying now. Dad's just staring at his plate. Jenny looks like she wants to disappear. And this one? Christmas Eve. When you said you were stuck at the airport, guess my bed was more comfortable than those airport chairs, huh? Anna runs from the table. Ryan goes after her. Mom's full-on sobbing. Dad finally looks at me. Son, we didn't know. Didn't know or didn't want to know? I stand up, surprisingly calm. Thanks for dinner, Mom. The lasagna was great. Don't invite me to the wedding. I walked to the door, but turned back looking at Ryan. Oh, and Ryan? Anna likes to sleep with her ex's brothers. Might want to keep her away from any you've got. The look on his face? Better than any revenge I could have planned. I got in my car, drove straight to Lily's place. I showed up at her door probably looking like hell, still in my dinner clothes, smelling like Mom's lasagna and regret. Lily took one look at me and just got it. Didn't ask questions, didn't try to fix anything. Just hugged me tightly and pulled me inside and poured me a drink. We sat on her balcony for hours. She's got this tiny apartment, but the view is incredible. We talked about everything. Not just the Anna and Ryan shit show, but like real stuff. Dreams we put on hold. Places we want to see. Why we both hate olives but keep trying them anyway, hoping our taste buds will change. At some point, Lily looks at me and says, you know what the worst part was? Watching her throw away someone who actually gave a damn. Do you know how rare that is? That hit different. Because yeah, I did give a damn. Still do, I guess. Not about Anna. She can choke on her wedding cake for all I care. But about doing relationships right. About being the kind of person who tries, you know? The next few times Lily and I hung out, we just talked, watched stupid movies, took the dogs to this dog park she knew about, started building something real, without all the drama and lies. It's been 4 months since the court hearing. A lot's changed. Dad actually did leave Mom. Turns out watching your wife defend your cheating son during your cancer treatment is a pretty solid deal breaker. He's got an apartment across town, started going to therapy. We get coffee sometimes. Just us. It's awkward, but we're trying. Jenny's talking to me again. She apologized like 100 times for keeping their secret. Said she was scared of breaking up the family. I get it now, even if I don't agree with it. Fear makes people do stupid shit. Mom still sends those family is everything type texts. I deleted them. She tried to tell me Ryan and Anna postponed their wedding, in case I changed my mind about attending. I changed my number. The other day, I ran into them once at the grocery store. Ryan looked like he wanted to say something. Anna suddenly became very interested in organic tomatoes. I just walked past them with my cart, grabbed my stuff, and left. Didn't feel anything. That's progress, I think. The dogs love Lily. Like, love her. Max, who usually takes forever to warm up to people, started bringing her his favorite toy the third time she came over. Bella basically lives in her lap whenever she's around. Dogs know good people when they meet them. We made it official last month. Took it slow, did it right. Our first real date was this hole-in-the-wall ramen place, where we both got terribly lost trying to find it and ended up laughing in the rain for like 20 minutes. It was perfect. I also got a promotion at work, moved to a new apartment, one without security cameras and shitty memories. Started playing guitar again. Badly, but Lily claims she likes it. The other day I was making dinner, and Lily was sitting on my counter telling me about her day. Max and Bella sprawled at her feet, and it hit me. This is what real happiness feels like. Not the Instagram perfect fake shit Anna and I had, but genuine, messy, beautiful happiness. Do I still get angry sometimes? Yeah. Do I miss my old life? Hell nah. Last week, Lily found an old photo of me and Anna in a drawer. Asked if I wanted to throw it out. I looked at it, us smiling at some family thing, Ryan probably taking the picture, and realized I didn't feel anything. No anger, no pain, just nothing. Tossed it in the trash and went back to making dinner. Lily put on some music. The dogs were begging for scraps. Just another normal evening. And you know what? Normal is pretty damn good. Edit. Holy shit, this blew up again. Thanks for following this crazy story, Reddit. Your comments and support helped more than you know. Special shout out to the person who sent me a recipe for better than your ex's new marriage chocolate cake. It really is that good. Life's weird. Sometimes your wife cheats on you with your brother, and everything falls apart. And sometimes you end up happier than you ever thought possible. Guess you never know. Anyway, Max and Bella say hi. Lily's reading this over my shoulder and says hi too. Think we're gonna go get ramen. Story 4. My dad left a voicemail. Don't bother coming. We're cutting ties. I texted back, understood. Then I quietly pulled my name from the business loan. They thought they could count on my brother. 1 week later, they were all panicking. Hey everyone. Before we jump into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed the channel is losing some traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and it helps us keep bringing you awesome content. Your support means the world. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much. Now let's start the video. Hey Reddit. I spent 15 years building my father's company. One day he left me a voicemail. Don't bother coming. We're cutting ties. Then he handed my role to my brother. I didn't argue. I just walked away, took what's mine, and watched everything collapse. They backed the wrong horse. Here's how it happened. My 35 male dad started his equipment supply business out of a storage unit in Houston back in the 80s. 3 decades later, it was doing $4.2 million in revenue out of a 50,000 square foot facility in North Dallas. I'd put in 15 years, first learning inventory during high school summers, then operations after college, and finally modernizing the whole back-end system 4 years ago. The business was solid Texas stock, industrial equipment for oil fields, construction sites, and manufacturing plants, high-end generators, specialized hydraulic systems, custom fabrication equipment, the kind of gear that keeps the Texas economy running, but nobody outside the industry ever thinks about. Our client list included most of the major players in the state's energy sector. Dad never missed a chance to remind everyone he built it from nothing, despite the $80,000 loan from my grandfather that he never paid back. He conveniently left that part out of his bootstrapping story. In today's money, that's around $200,000 of startup capital he got for free. Not exactly the self-made narrative he pushed. My brother, 27 male, Damien, was a different story. While I was counting inventory on 102-degree warehouse days, he was at SMU, then wasting time in Europe networking. Mom and Dad paid for everything: tuition, apartment, car. The convertible BMW he wrecked sophomore year was replaced within a week. When he finally joined the business 4 years ago, Dad gave him a VP title despite having zero experience. Mom was always his biggest defender. When Damien totaled that BMW, it was her who convinced Dad to replace it immediately. She needs reliable transportation for networking events, she'd insisted, while I was driving a 10-year-old Camry with 180,000 miles that I'd paid for myself. She never pushed for me the way she did for him. Damien majored in communications, which basically meant he spent 4 years partying and making connections with other rich kids. His resume consisted of 1 summer internship at a marketing firm where his college roommate's dad was the CEO. Yet somehow, Dad thought he was qualified to run sales at a multi-million-dollar industrial equipment company. I still remember the day Damien first showed his true colors at work. We'd landed a major oil company contract, and I'd spent 6 months setting up the logistics and building a custom inventory system for their specific needs. We're talking 3 a.m. nights, weekends sacrificed, my girlfriend at the time breaking up with me because I was married to the job. On the day of the final presentation to their procurement team, Damien waltzed in 20 minutes late, took over my PowerPoint, and then introduced himself as the architect behind this partnership. When the client asked a technical question about implementation timelines, Damien fumbled, so I jumped in with the answer. Later that day, he cornered me in the warehouse. "Don't ever make me look bad in front of clients again," he said, jabbing his finger at my chest. "I just answered their question," I replied. "Next time, write it down and pass me a note. I'm the face of sales now. You're the back-end guy. Know your place." I should have quit that day. Instead, I swallowed my pride and kept working, telling myself I was doing it for the company my dad built, not for Damien's ego. The oil company contract ended up being worth $1.7 million in the first year alone. But guess whose name was on the commission paperwork? Not mine. Last year, I found proof Damien was inflating his commission numbers. He'd take credit for renewals that were automatic, claim deals that other sales guys had closed, and even create phantom leads that magically converted last minute to hit quarterly targets. I showed Dad the evidence, a spreadsheet comparison that took me a week to compile, and he brushed it off as how business gets done in Texas. I'd spent the last 2 quarters quietly documenting everything, building my case, keeping receipts. I wasn't planning to use any of it, but something told me to be prepared. Call it instinct from 15 years of watching my dad operate. Then one day, I noticed my dad's missed call. It was 6:42 p.m. on a Thursday, and I'd just closed our biggest deal of the quarter, without Damien's help. We weren't exactly the daily check-in type of family, so I figured it had to be something about the quarterly numbers. I hit play on the voicemail and continued packing up my stuff, half listening as I shoved my laptop into its case. "Don't bother coming to the family reunion. We're cutting ties." I froze, one hand still on my laptop zipper. 7 words, delivered in the same flat tone he'd used to cancel a lunch meeting. I stood there for a minute, his voice echoing in my head. The message was cold and efficient, like terminating a contract. After all the years I'd put into the family business, all the weekends I'd sacrificed, all the personal relationships I'd put on hold to help build his empire, this is how he ends it? A voicemail? The family reunion was our annual thing at my dad's ranch in the hill country. Been happening since I was a kid. It wasn't just a family gathering. It was also when we discussed the business direction for the coming year, hash out major decisions, and set compensation. Cutting me out of that was cutting me out of the business. Through my office window, I could see Damien in Dad's office, both of them looking at paperwork, nodding. Dad never consulted with me that way anymore. Now it all made sense. They weren't just planning next quarter, they were planning my exit. I picked up my phone, my thumbs hovering over the screen. A dozen replies ran through my mind, each one angrier than the last. But finally, I just typed a single word. Understood. If he wanted to end things, fine. I wasn't going to beg for an explanation. But if he thought he could cut me out without consequences, he had another thing coming. I reached down and pulled out the thick, leather-bound ledger from my bottom drawer. There was my name and neat signature in black ink next to my parents'. With a slow, deliberate stroke, I crossed my name off. The sound of the pen cutting through the paper felt like a physical act of separation. I took a photo of the modified document with my phone, then opened my email and wrote a message to my personal lawyer. I attached the photo and typed, "Need to talk tomorrow. Family business situation changing. Let's discuss options." I hit send, locked my office door, and walked out of the building without looking back. If my father wanted to play this game, I wasn't going to let him hold my future hostage. The next day, I acted fast, erased the date from my calendar, and sent an email to my parents confirming my intention to step away from the business and requesting a full financial audit. No pleasantries, no attempts to patch things up. Just the cold, clear language of a businessman walking away from a bad deal. 15 years of my life in that company. 15 years of missed vacations, canceled dates, and postponed plans. For what? To be cut out with a 7-word voicemail? I'd given up a job offer at Amazon's logistics division after college to help Dad expand the business. And for what? So Damien could waltz in and take over? I quietly pulled my name from the business loan documents where I was listed as a guarantor. This wasn't an emotional decision, it was pure risk management. If they were cutting me out. Made a few calls to my lawyer to initiate the separation process. It wasn't emotional. It was strategic. My dad taught me that business is business. I was just applying his lesson. While I waited for my lawyer to call back, I backed up every relevant document I had access to. Financial reports, client lists, vendor contracts, anything that might be useful if things got ugly. Not to steal, but to protect myself. When you've spent 15 years building systems, you know exactly where the bones are buried. An hour after I sent my email, Damien texted me. Always knew you'd bail when things got tough. Don't worry, I've got plenty of ideas to fix your outdated systems. Bet Dad wishes he'd put me in charge years ago. I didn't respond. No point adding fuel to the fire. I just took a screenshot from my records and kept working on my exit strategy. Damien had always been a talker, not a doer. His ideas typically involved spending money we didn't have on consultants we didn't need. The next morning, I got a text from Matthew, one of the warehouse managers who'd been with us for a decade. Your dad just called an emergency meeting. Announced Damien's taking over your position effective immediately. The guy couldn't tell a circuit breaker from a fuse box if his life depended on it. Apparently, Damien had been telling Dad I was planning to start my own competing business and stealing client information for months. Complete bullshit. But Damien had always had Dad wrapped around his finger. I spent that night copying all relevant files to my personal storage, taking screenshots of admin access pages, and documenting everything I'd built or implemented. I knew exactly how this would play out. 36 hours later, my phone lit up with a tidal wave of missed calls. 78 from my mother alone, dozens more from my sister, and a handful from my father. I scrolled through the panicked texts, frantic voicemails, and increasingly desperate emails. My father's messages started with cautious, probing questions, like someone testing thin ice. But as the hours passed and my silence grew longer, they became more urgent, his words tinged with something I hadn't heard in his voice in years: fear. Hugo, you need to call me about the credit line paperwork. It's important. Son, we can discuss it like men. Call me back. Hugo, this isn't a game. The company's at stake here. His accountant, a humorless man from Austin I never liked, left a message that crackled with anxiety. Hugo, we need to talk urgently. The credit line is in jeopardy without your signature. I leaned back in my chair and let a slow smile cross my face. I'd given them a head start, but now the storm had hit, and I was just getting started. See, what my dad and Damien didn't realize was that 4 years ago, when I modernized our entire business infrastructure, I'd made myself essential to the operation. Not intentionally, I'd actually documented everything meticulously, but some things you just can't transfer in a day. Things like the personal relationships I'd built with our main suppliers, the custom code that kept our inventory system running, and the specialized knowledge of our clients' needs that I'd accumulated over years. By the third day, the messages had gone from confused to desperate. My mother's voicemails were breathless pleas, her words tumbling over each other. My sister Ariel tried a softer approach. Hey, Hugo. I don't know what's going on, but I'm sure it's just a misunderstanding. Let's talk. I didn't answer. Ariel meant well, but I knew my dad too well to think this was just a misunderstanding. On the fourth day, I got an email from the bank that runs our family business accounts. I opened it cautiously, bracing myself for whatever new disaster my parents had cooked up. As I scanned the document, my jaw dropped. My father and Damien had quietly tried to transfer all the remaining funds into a separate account in their names only. They'd even initiated the paperwork to dissolve the original LLC, effectively cutting me out of the picture entirely. The only reason the bank flagged it was because my name was still on some of the original documents, and my signature was required for major financial changes per our operating agreement. An agreement I'd insisted on when we restructured 4 years ago, a detail Dad had probably forgotten about in his rush to push me out. That was it. My dad wasn't just trying to break up the family. He and Damien were trying to cut me off completely, cleanly, for good. They probably thought I'd be too stunned or hurt to act. They didn't realize that by crossing that line, they'd given me the perfect excuse to hit back. I took a deep breath, then called my lawyer. We had a long, intense conversation, and by the end of it, the wheels were in motion for something much bigger than just removing my name from a business loan. They've made this easy for us, my lawyer said. Attempted financial fraud is pretty straightforward. But are you sure you want to go this route? Once you pull this trigger, there's no going back. I didn't hesitate. I'm sure. They started this war. I'm just making sure I win it. The next morning, I pulled together every scrap of paper I had on the family business. I spent hours compiling a comprehensive dossier, highlighting every shady move, every questionable expense, every suspicious transaction my father and brother had ever made. Years of bottled-up frustration fueled my focus. Dad's habit of categorizing personal expenses as business write-offs, Damien's inflated commission reports, the consulting fees paid to my cousin's web design company that never actually delivered a website. the cash deals with certain vendors that mysteriously never appeared in the official books. It was all there, meticulously documented. When I was done, I had a thick, damning stack of evidence. I filed an official complaint with the bank and froze all accounts pending a full audit. I also filed a request with the IRS to investigate possible tax fraud, attaching the most incriminating pieces from my dossier. I didn't know if it would stick, but I was willing to find out. Finally, just for good measure, I sent the whole package to my father's biggest client, a longtime family friend who I knew wouldn't like the idea of being involved in a potentially fraudulent deal. Jim had known my grandfather and had given my dad his first big contract. He was old-school Texas oil money, a man who valued loyalty and straight dealing above all else. I knew he wouldn't take kindly to learning how my father had been operating. I expected retaliation, but I was prepared. I'd already secured all my personal finances, moved my assets to new accounts, and made sure my name was off any company credit lines. Let them come at me. I was no longer exposed. That night, I sat at my apartment window overlooking downtown Dallas, watching the city lights blink on. Part of me felt a twinge of regret about how things had escalated. But another part, the part that remembered every slight, every time Damien was favored, every dismissal of my contributions, felt nothing but cold satisfaction. My phone buzzed with a text from Matthew at the warehouse. Chaos here today. Your brother tried to access the inventory system and somehow managed to crash the server. Your dad's been yelling all day. Hope whatever's going on works out, man. I smiled grimly. They were learning just how much they'd relied on me, and it had only been 4 days. That night, my phone buzzed again. Ariel. I hesitated before answering. Hugo, I know you're angry, and I don't blame you. But can we talk? Just you and me. I paused, weighing my options. Despite everything, I didn't want to drag her into the middle of this mess. She'd always been the reasonable one, trying to keep things functional when Dad's ego flared up. All right, I finally said. Let's meet tomorrow. The next day, I met Ariel at a BBQ joint in North Dallas. She was already there, waiting at a corner table, keeping an eye on the door. When she saw me, she straightened up a bit, but her expression remained serious. Ariel had always been the bridge between me and the rest of the family. 3 years younger than me, 5 years older than Damien, she'd perfected the art of neutrality in family conflicts. Hugo, what's going on? She asked, keeping her voice low. Dad's losing it. Mom's a wreck. They think you're trying to destroy the business. And Damien is just making everything worse, threatening to sue you left and right. She deserved to know the truth, but I didn't want to drag her deeper into the mess. They tried to cut me out completely, I said. Dad and Damien have been moving money into a separate account, trying to dissolve the LLC behind my back. I'm just making sure they can't burn me on the way out. Her eyes widened. That can't be right. Dad wouldn't just... No, there must be some mistake. What about Damien? Would he? I asked pointedly. She looked away, unable to deny it. Damien had always been manipulative, even with her. He'd borrowed money from her college fund once, promising to pay it back but never did. Dad covered it up, of course. I pushed a thin folder across the table. It contained carefully selected pages, just enough to make my point without overwhelming her. Bank transfer requests, questionable invoices, and emails where my father and Damien had explicitly asked their accountant to speed up the separation process. She flipped through the papers. Jesus Christ, this is a lot of money, Hugo. She paused, her fingers tapping a highlighted statement. 75,000 just gone. Yes, I said, leaning back. And that's just the beginning. They've been siphoning off funds for months, maybe years. I caught a transfer of $150,000 to a private account in their names marked Business Development Expenses. I leaned closer. Ariel, if I hadn't reacted when I did, I'd be on the hook for all of it. My name is on those loan documents and tax forms. I could have been legally liable. She closed the folder and pressed her palm flat against it. You have to talk to them, she said firmly. There's got to be another explanation. He's not usually this stupid. And Damien? I asked. She didn't answer. I gave them a chance to explain. You know what Dad did? He left me a 7-word voicemail that broke up the family. Then he put Damien in my position the very next day. Just please don't destroy everything, she said. Mom's already talking about selling the house. If this blows up, I don't know what they'll do. I'm not the one who started this, Ariel. But I promise you, I'm going to finish it. That evening, I got a notice from the bank. The freeze on the company accounts had gone through. My lawyer had leveraged the operating agreement I'd insisted on 4 years ago, the one requiring unanimous member approval for transfers exceeding $50,000, along with evidence of unauthorized transactions. The bank had flagged over $250,000 in suspicious transactions, with several large sums still pending transfer. I pictured my father and Damien in that Austin limestone office, watching the numbers tick down, their carefully built financial empire unraveling by the hour. I wasn't just cutting myself loose, I was setting the whole ship on fire. I knew the business well enough to understand what a frozen account meant. Vendors wouldn't get paid, payroll would be delayed. The line of credit they relied on for major purchases would be jeopardized. It was the corporate equivalent of a heart attack. I woke up the next morning to my phone buzzing like crazy. My email inbox was flooded with notifications from the bank, my lawyer, and panicked messages from my father's accountant. The audit had come sooner than expected, and it was clearly making waves. I scrolled through the latest updates from the bank. They'd frozen over $400,000 in assets across several accounts and flagged another $200,000 in unexplained withdrawals going back 6 months. It was a financial stranglehold, enough to shut down the business operations completely. My father had left 3 voicemails overnight, each one more desperate than the last. "Hugo, son, please. I don't know what you think you know, but you're making a terrible mistake. Call me back immediately. We can work this out." I deleted the messages without responding. An hour later, Ariel called again. "Hugo, what did you do?" she asked, her voice steady but strained. "I did what I had to do," I replied evenly. "They're freaking out, Hugo. Dad's talking about lawyers, about pressing charges for sabotage. Mom's in full panic mode, and Damien is making wild promises about fixing everything if they just give him full control." I wasn't surprised. They'd never been good at handling when their plans went sideways. I gave them a chance. Dad made his move, Damien took my position, and I made my countermove. I'm not backing down. There was a long silence on the other end. "Fine. Meet with them," she said finally. "One last time. For me." I hesitated. I owed Ariel at least that much. "All right," I said. "But this is the last time." As I hung up, my lawyer called with an update. The bank's preliminary audit had already turned up enough red flags to warrant a more thorough investigation. My father and Damien were looking at potential fraud charges if things kept going this way. "You need to decide how far you want to take this," he said. "Right now, you've got leverage. They're scared. This might be the time to negotiate a settlement that cuts you loose with your fair share." I considered it. A settlement would be cleaner, faster. But something in me resisted. This wasn't just about money anymore. We met at my parents' house in North Dallas that night. I'd grown up in this house, spent my teenage years in the bedroom upstairs, brought my first girlfriend to dinner at that dining table. Now it felt like enemy territory. My mother opened the door with a forced smile and quick hug. She looked tired. Inside, my father was standing in the living room, arms crossed, looking like he owned the world. Damien sat in the leather chair like it was a throne, legs spread wide, feigning confidence despite the situation. "Sit down," my father demanded. I dropped into a chair, noting how every family photo featured Damien front and center, with me pushed to the side. Had it always been that way? Or was I just noticing it now? "So what's this about?" I asked. My father turned to me, face flushed. "What the hell do you think you're doing, Hugo? Freezing the accounts, getting an audit. You're trying to destroy everything I built." I met his gaze directly. "I'm destroying things? After you tried to cut me out without warning? You think I wouldn't notice $250,000 disappearing into a private account? You think I'm just going to sit back while you and Damien gut the company I helped build?" Damien stood up, pointing at me. "You've always been resentful of Dad's success. You've been trying to undermine me from day one." My father's face hardened. "You have no idea what you've done," he said. "I've got deals in the pipeline, investments in place. Damien has relationships with new clients. If you freeze these accounts, it could ruin everything." "That's not my problem," I shot back. "You made your decision when you tried to cut me out of the business and replace me with Damien. I'm just protecting what's mine." There was a long silence. Then Damien leaned back in his chair with a smirk. "Don't worry, Dad. I'll modernize the company now that Hugo's out of the way. His systems are ancient. I've got contacts at Oracle who can set us up with real enterprise solutions." I laughed. Damien had never even logged into our inventory system, let alone understood it. "Damien's right," my father said. "We were planning to update the whole operation anyway. This is just accelerating the timeline." I looked at my father and saw something I'd never noticed before. He was scared. Beneath all the blustering and threats, he was terrified that his empire was slipping away. And instead of facing reality, he was doubling down on the fantasy that Damien could somehow save everything. My dad leaned in, voice low and threatening. "Fine. You want to play hardball? You want to burn this family down? I'll show you what it really looks like." I held his gaze. I'd come too far to back down now. Ariel stepped between us. Stop, all of you. This isn't solving anything. I stood up and grabbed my jacket. You wanted me here, Ariel, I came. But I'm done trying to reason with them. I turned and walked out, shutting the door firmly behind me. As I got into my car, my phone buzzed with a new email, a message from my lawyer. My parents and Damien had just filed a lawsuit claiming I had sabotaged the business and illegally taken control of their accounts. I let out a short laugh and tossed my phone on the passenger seat. So this was how they wanted to play it? Fine. I'd given them a chance to walk away. Now I'd make sure they had nothing left to fight for. The lawsuit hit me harder than expected. My father and Damien had gone nuclear, accusing me of everything from embezzlement to corporate sabotage. Their claims were outrageous, but the stakes were real. If they convinced a judge I'd illegally seized the accounts, I could be on the hook for hundreds of thousands in damages. I'd expected them to be angry, but I hadn't expected them to be this stupid. It was like they were begging to be caught. I spent the next week buried in legal documents, my lawyer working overtime to counter each new motion they filed. They had even dragged Ariel into it, calling her as a witness against me, probably hoping to break my resolve. Then, 2 days before the first court date, I received a message from my father's accountant. Hugo, we need to meet in private. There are things you need to know. I met him that night at a roadhouse off Interstate 35. He was already there when I arrived, looking nervous. He waved me over, glancing around the room. Hugo, I shouldn't be here. If they find out, he nervously adjusted his glasses. The IRS has been sniffing around some of our filings. With the lawsuit and court-ordered audit, I could be looking at criminal charges for my part in this. I need to get ahead of this. Just tell me what this is about, I said, sitting across from him. He leaned forward, voice dropping. Your brother. He's been hiding money for years. Offshore accounts, shell companies, under-the-table cash deals. Your father only found out recently, but he's been covering for him. It's bad. I'd expected some financial misconduct, but this sounded much worse. How bad? Tax evasion, wire fraud, maybe money laundering. I've been cooking the books at their instruction for years, but this lawsuit, if it goes to discovery, we're all exposed. I can't risk my license, my freedom. He slid a flash drive across the table. Everything you need is on here. Bank statements, wire transfers, contracts. Your brother has been systematically bleeding the company dry for years, and your father has been helping cover it up. It's enough to sink them both. That night, I reviewed the files. It was all there. Over $750,000 had been quietly siphoned out of the company, with Damien's fingerprints all over it and my father's signature approving most of it. There were equipment purchases that never happened, consulting fees paid to shell companies Damien controlled, and even a fake warehouse lease that was actually funding his condo in South Padre Island. My father had signed off on all of it, either knowingly or in willful ignorance. The next morning, I sent everything to my lawyer with a note. Let's get this over with. By the time the court date arrived, my parents and Damien were backed into a corner. Their accounts were frozen, their business reputation in tatters, and now, with this new evidence, they were staring down potential criminal charges. My father looked older as he entered the courtroom, his usual swagger gone. Damien wasn't even there. He'd apparently gone out of town on business the night before. The judge took less than an hour to rule. The evidence was overwhelming. The case was dismissed, and the court ordered a full forensic audit of my parents' finances and the business. I watched my father's face as reality set in. He hadn't just lost the business. He'd lost everything. Outside the courtroom, he approached me, shoulders slumped. Hugo, you have to believe me. I didn't know how bad it was with Damien. I was just trying to protect him. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. You chose him over me, I said quietly. Every time. And now you're paying for it. I walked away, leaving him standing there, suddenly looking every one of his 68 years. A week later, Ariel called. She'd found our parents a small apartment in Arlington. She didn't ask for my help, and I didn't offer it. But I sent them enough for 3 months' rent, more for her sake than theirs. Did you know about Damien? He's ruined them, Hugo. And they let him do it. They chose him over you, over me, over everything Dad spent his life building. I could hear the hurt in her voice. It wasn't just me who'd been betrayed. As for the business, it had imploded completely. The audit revealed that Damien had been siphoning money for years. The company was deeply in debt, and most of their major clients had jumped ship when the scandal hit the Dallas business press. The warehouse was shuttered, the equipment sold at auction. Damien had disappeared. Last Ariel heard, he was in Mexico, ignoring their calls, with about $300,000 of the company's money. I signed the final papers dissolving my connection to the business, severing the last financial ties between us. With my settlement money and industry connections, I was already 6 weeks into establishing my own operation in Oklahoma City. Different state, different market, similar industry. I'd secured a modest warehouse space, brought over 2 trusted employees from the Dallas operation, and started building something that was entirely mine. No family drama, no nepotism, just sound business practices. 3 months later, my father called directly. His voice was different, subdued, but still with that undertone of entitlement. Hugo, we need to talk. Your mother and I, we've hit a rough patch. Damien has cleaned us out and disappeared. We were wrong. We need your help to rebuild the business. I let his words hang in the air. Part of me felt vindicated. The other part was just tired of the whole thing. I'm sorry, Dad. That chapter of my life is closed. Come on, son. We have nothing left. We were wrong about you. Wrong about Damien. We can start over, rebuild the business together, the right way this time. I still have connections across Texas. I took a deep breath. Number, you made your choice. Now you have to live with it. I've moved on. Your mother needs her medication. The insurance. His voice broke for a moment. I felt a twinge in my chest, but quickly suppressed it. He'd been manipulating me for years with guilt. Not this time. I already talked to Ariel about that. She's handling Mom's prescriptions through her clinic. You'll be fine. You can't just abandon your family, Hugo. After all I've done for you. I almost laughed at that. All you've done for me? Dad, I worked 15 years building your company while you handed everything to Damien on a silver platter. I'm done. I hung up and blocked his number. Maybe someday I'd be ready to have them in my life again in some small way, but I would never again tie my future to their judgment or put my financial security in their hands. My father taught me one valuable lesson after all. Business is business, family is something else entirely. What do you guys think? Did I do the right thing by refusing to help them start over? Edit. Sup guys, it's been a while. Just wanted to let you know an update is coming soon. A lot went down. Stay tuned. Update. Hey again, Reddit. It's been 6 months since my main post, and let me tell you, shit went insane. Yesterday, the Dallas Morning News ran a story about a prominent local businessman's son being arrested in Puerto Vallarta. Yes, that was Damien. Local authorities picked him up at a beachfront condo where he'd been living under a fake name for the past 6 months. He's been extradited back to Texas and charged with wire fraud, tax evasion, and money laundering. The DA is talking 15 to 20 years if convicted on all counts. The paper made it sound like he'd been caught during a routine investigation. Like maybe he got sloppy, or someone recognized him, or he pissed off the wrong person down there. He didn't. What the article didn't mention was that his location, evidence of his financial crimes, and a comprehensive paper trail documenting every illegal transaction had been delivered to the FBI, IRS Criminal Investigation Division, and Texas Department of Banking exactly 30 days before his arrest. By me. When Damien disappeared to Mexico, I knew the game wasn't over. Half-finished jobs irritate me. Always have. So while my parents were crying to Ariel about their lost fortune, I quietly hired a private investigator in Mexico City who specializes in finding people who don't want to be found. Took 2 months and cost me $45,000. But he located Damien living in a $7,000 per month oceanfront condo, driving a new Porsche Taycan, and dating a local restaurant owner. The PI sent me photos of Damien lounging by the pool and laughing like he didn't have a care in the world, like he hadn't destroyed our family business and left our parents destitute. Basic lifestyle surveillance confirmed it was him. The PI got me his alias. He was going by Jack Stevens, his new phone number, and his banking information. From there, I built a comprehensive case. Turned out those offshore accounts the accountant had flagged were just the tip of the iceberg. Damien had been siphoning company funds since day one, and had set up an elaborate network of shell companies to hide the money. He'd created fake vendor accounts that charged our company for non-existent services, set up dummy corporations in Nevada and Wyoming to receive consulting fees, even had a fake property management company that supposedly leased equipment to us, equipment we already owned. The full amount was close to $1.2 million, significantly more than the $300,000 my parents initially thought. I didn't do this for justice. I didn't do it to help my parents recover their money. I did it because I finished what I start. When I had everything in place, bank records, transfer confirmations, IP logs from his account logins, even photos of him accessing the accounts from his Mexico hideout, I put together 3 identical packages. One for the FBI's Financial Crimes Unit, one for IRS Criminal Investigations, and one for the State Banking Commission. Added a detailed timeline, contact information for all relevant witnesses, including our family accountant, who was more than willing to cooperate to save his own skin, and a roadmap for prosecution. Then I sent them certified mail, no return address, and waited. I didn't expect them to move so quickly. Federal agencies typically take their time with white-collar cases, but apparently the evidence was too solid to ignore. Maybe they had him on their radar already for other scams. Either way, they moved. The FBI agent leading the case called me yesterday. Apparently, my name was all over the financial documents as the former operations director, so they wanted a statement. I gave them what they needed. They don't know I was the one who delivered the evidence, and they don't need to. Damien's facing federal charges now. According to his court-appointed attorney, seems like his Mexico money didn't last long enough to hire a decent lawyer, he's trying to make a deal, offering to testify against our father for a reduced sentence. Classic Damien, always looking for the easy way out. Dad will likely face charges too. While he might get a slightly lighter sentence since Damien was the primary architect, at his age, even a 5-year sentence could mean spending his remaining good years behind bars. My parents' remaining assets have been frozen pending the outcome of the case. Ariel says they might lose the apartment I paid for. She asked if I'd help them again. I didn't. The old company is officially dead. Its assets were liquidated months ago. Its reputation buried. My new operation in Oklahoma crossed the $1 million revenue mark last quarter. I've hired good people, implemented solid systems, and built something clean and functional from the ground up. No family drama, no hidden agendas, no Damien. He'll spend years in federal prison wondering who built the case against him. Was it the accountant? A vengeful client? Some random banker who spotted irregularities? It'll eat at him daily, but he'll never know it was me. He'll never know I tracked his every move, documented his crimes methodically, and handed him to the feds on a silver platter. He'll never understand the level of detail and planning that went into his downfall. Some might call it revenge. I just call it closing the loop. As for my parents, they made their choice when they cut me out with that 7-word voicemail. They'll have to live with the consequences. Ariel's still caught in the middle, and I help her when I can. But that chapter with my parents is closed for good. In the end, Damien taught me something too. Always check who's moving pieces behind the scenes. Business is business. Story 5. This story is titled, My Wife Blindsided Me, Asking for a Break, because she's not in love anymore. So I got my ducks in a row, and now she is mocking me for trying too hard to win her back when I am only preparing to screw her over. Hey guys, before we get into today's video, I just want to ask for a quick favor. Our channel's been slowing down a bit, and hitting that subscribe button and dropping a comment would really help us out. Alright, let's jump in. Before I, 34 male, get into the absolute train wreck that my marriage became, let me tell you a bit about myself. I grew up in a blue-collar family in the Midwest. My old man worked the same factory job for 35 years, came home with grease under his fingernails every day, and taught me that a man's word and work ethic are all he really has in this world. My mom stayed home with us 4 kids, stretching my dad's paycheck with coupons and home-cooked meals. We weren't poor exactly, but luxuries were rare and appreciated. I wasn't the smartest kid in school, but I worked harder than most. Sports came naturally to me, football and wrestling mainly. Got a partial scholarship to state college, but dropped out after 2 years when the construction company I was working summers for offered me full-time work with good pay. My parents were disappointed I didn't finish my degree, but I was making more at 21 than most of my friends who graduated. Started working construction at 19, put in the hours, learned every aspect of the business. By 26, I'd worked my way up to site manager, and at 29, I took the biggest risk of my life and started my own contracting business. First year was rough as hell, ramen noodles and sleepless nights. But by year 3, I had a solid reputation, 6 guys working for me, and contracts lined up 6 months in advance. I built this life from nothing but sweat and determination. When I met Jessica at my buddy Dave's BBQ 8 years ago, she was this fiery, ambitious woman working as a marketing coordinator for some tech startup. She had these intense green eyes that lit up when she talked about her career goals. We clicked instantly. Both of us were driven and had big plans. She seemed impressed that I'd started my own business without a degree, said it showed real-world intelligence that was sexier than any diploma. After dating for 3 years, we got married in a small ceremony with about 50 guests. Her idea, though she later complained it wasn't Instagram-worthy enough. Those first few months were great. We'd both come home tired from work, cook together, binge some Netflix, and couldn't keep our hands off each other. We talked about building something meaningful together. Fast forward to 2 years of marriage, and Jessica was pregnant with our daughter Lily. Not entirely planned, but we were excited. Jessica had always talked about wanting to be a SAHM, at least until our kids started school. I was making enough for us to live comfortably in our three-bedroom house that I bought before we got married with the down payment from a flip project I did on weekends. Important later. So I supported her decision to quit her job. Her pregnancy was rough. Lots of morning sickness, swollen ankles, the works. I did everything I could, took over all the cooking, hired a cleaning service twice a month, made sure she had whatever weird cravings she wanted, pickle juice and chocolate ice cream at 2 a.m.? Sure thing. I even converted the second bedroom into a nursery myself, painting it this soft yellow color she wanted, and assembling all the furniture. When Lily came, Jessica had some postpartum struggles. I get it. Hormones are a bitch from what I understand. I took 3 weeks off work, which was tough for a small business owner, but family comes first. I did night feedings, diaper changes, everything I could while still keeping my business from collapsing. When I went back to work, I hired a part-time mother's helper to come in 3 days a week so Jessica could nap or shower or whatever she needed. I started taking on more clients, sometimes working 12-hour days and weekends to make sure we could afford the lifestyle Jessica wanted. She was constantly comparing our life to her college friends on social media, the ones with rich husbands who took them on luxury vacations twice a year. I busted my ass to provide, taking on custom home builds that paid better but required more attention. We weren't living like royalty, but we had a nice house in a good neighborhood, 2 reliable cars, and Jessica could buy whatever she wanted for herself or Lily without checking the bank account first. I thought I was building something for us. I thought we were on the same page. It was a Tuesday in November. I remember because we had our first snow that morning, and I'd spent an extra hour on site making sure the new foundation we'd poured was properly covered. Then I had to deal with a supplier who sent the wrong fixtures for the Peterson job. By the time I got home, it was after 7 p.m., and I'd been going since 5 a.m. I walked through the door, boots caked in mud and concrete dust, to find Jessica sitting at the kitchen island scrolling through her phone. She barely looked up. Lily, my beautiful 15-month-old with her mom's green eyes and my dark hair, was strapped in her high chair, Cheerios scattered everywhere, looking like she'd been there a while. "Hey babe, sorry I'm late. The supplier screwed up again and—" I started, while scooping up Lily who squealed, "Dada!" and reached for me with sticky hands. "I need a break to find myself again," Jessica interrupted, finally looking up from her phone. Being a mom has stolen my identity. I stood there like an idiot, still in my work boots, holding our giggling toddler, who was now trying to grab my beard. "What do you mean a break? Like a vacation? You know I can take some time off next month after the Miller project wraps up if you want to go somewhere?" "No, Mike. A break from US. I'm not happy anymore. You don't meet my emotional needs. I feel like I'm just Mike's wife or Lily's mom now. I need space to figure out who I am." This from the woman who hadn't worked in 2 years, who had a weekly spa day I paid for, who had a cleaning service come twice a month, also my dime, who had a mother's helper 3 days a week. I was working 60 to 70 hours a week to give her the life she claimed she wanted, and apparently that made me the asshole. "Is there someone else?" I asked, the question popping out before I could stop it. The way her eyes flicked to her phone for a split second told me everything I needed to know. "Don't be ridiculous!" she snapped, standing up suddenly. "This toxic masculinity thing where you assume I must be cheating just because I need space is exactly the problem. This is why I feel suffocated. You don't understand emotional labor or the mental load of being a mother." I took a deep breath, bouncing Lily, who was starting to sense the tension. "Okay, let's talk about this. What does a break look like to you? Where would you go? What about Lily?" Jessica rolled her eyes like I was missing the point entirely. "I don't know yet, Mike. That's why I need space to think. God, you always need everything spelled out like a contract." I didn't push it that night. I got Lily cleaned up, fed her a proper dinner since it looked like all she'd had were dry Cheerios, gave her a bath, and put her to bed with 3 of her favorite stories. By the time I came back downstairs, Jessica was watching some reality show and didn't acknowledge me. I grabbed a soda from the fridge and crashed in the guest room. My gut was screaming something wasn't right, but 8 years together makes you want to believe the best about your partner. Maybe she was right. Maybe I was too focused on providing and not enough on connecting. I fell asleep wondering how I could fix things, not yet realizing there was nothing to fix. The foundation was already cracked beyond repair. 2 days went by in a weird, tense standoff. Jessica was suddenly too tired to handle Lily in the mornings, so I started getting up earlier to take care of her before heading to work, dropping her with my mom who was happy to watch her granddaughter. When I'd come home, Jessica would be just leaving for a girls' night or some vague self-care thing. On the third day, my buddy Ryan texted me during lunch. "Dude, Call me ASAP. It's about Jess. I stepped away from the site and called him from my truck. Look, man, I didn't want to get involved, but this shit ain't right, Ryan started, sounding uncomfortable. Tara, his girlfriend, is in this gaming group with Jess, some online role-playing thing on Discord. She's been watching Jess overshare about your marriage for weeks now. My stomach dropped. What kind of oversharing? She's been going on about how you're emotionally unavailable and too focused on providing rather than connecting. Says you guys haven't had a meaningful conversation in months. I thought back to how many times I'd tried to talk to Jessica about our days, about Lily's development, about future plans, only to get one-word answers while she stared at her phone. There's this dude in the group, calls himself Ethan, Ryan continued. Tara says Jess has been private messaging him constantly, like staying up until 3 a.m. talking to this guy. That explained why Jessica was suddenly too tired in the mornings. Has Tara seen their private chats? I asked, already knowing I wasn't going to like the answer. Not all of them, but enough. Jess was bragging in a group chat yesterday about how she told you she wanted a break and how you just accepted it like the emotional robot she always knew you were. Said this Ethan guy actually listens to her. I thanked Ryan for the heads up and sat in my truck for a good 20 minutes, just staring at nothing. The pieces were falling into place. The sudden need for space, the girls' nights that never seemed to involve any actual girls, the constant texting. That night, when Jessica was in the shower, her new routine, hour-long showers with her phone brought into the bathroom, I did something I never thought I'd do. I checked her Discord on her laptop that she'd left open. The messages made me physically sick. She and this Ethan guy were exchanging explicit messages, complete with photos I didn't know existed. She was telling him how intellectually stimulating he was compared to me. I'm just a construction guy, apparently, despite running a successful business. How she felt truly seen by him after just a few weeks of online chatting. There were detailed critiques of our sex life, with Jessica complaining I only wanted sex without emotional intimacy, conveniently forgetting the countless times I'd tried to connect only to be shut down. She shared intimate details about my body, my insecurities, things I'd told her in confidence. The kicker? From what I could piece together, this dude was unemployed, living in his mom's basement across the country in Oregon, and had never been in a serious relationship at 29. But he was a free spirit who understood her on a deeper level and wrote shitty poetry that Jessica gushed over like he was the next Shakespeare. They were already making plans for her to visit him, discussing how much child support and alimony she could get from me, which apparently would be enough for them to start a life together. There was even talk about how Lily would adjust to the move once things were settled. I took screenshots of everything, emailed them to myself, then closed the laptop exactly as I found it. I felt hollow, like someone had scooped out my insides with a rusty spoon. When Jessica came out of the bathroom in her robe, phone in hand, I couldn't hold it in anymore. So who's Ethan? I asked, my voice surprisingly steady. Her face went through about 5 expressions in 2 seconds. Shock, fear, anger, calculation, and finally indignation. You went through my private conversations? She shrieked, clutching her phone to her chest like I might lunge for it. How dare you invade my privacy like that? Your laptop was open, Jess. Wasn't exactly Fort Knox. Answer the question. Who's Ethan and why are you planning to take my daughter across the country to live with him? It's not like that. He's just a friend who actually listens to me, unlike you. And if you were meeting my emotional needs, I wouldn't have had to look elsewhere. This is your fault. I reminded her who paid for the phone she was clutching, the internet connection she used to chat with her friend, the roof over her head, and everything else that gave her the luxury to sit around sexting with strangers while I worked my ass off. Oh, so now you're going to be financially abusive, she spat. Throw it in my face that you make all the money. That's why I need someone like Ethan who values me for me, not as some trophy wife. I almost laughed at the absurdity. Trophy wife? When was the last time she'd even put on makeup or real clothes for me? Meanwhile, I was lucky to get a grunt of acknowledgement when I came home from 12-hour workdays. I'm going to ask you one more time, I said, keeping my voice even though I wanted to punch a wall. Are you having an affair with this guy? Emotional or otherwise? You can't have an affair with someone you've never met in person, she said, like she was explaining something to a toddler. And even if I was, it would be because you drove me to it with your emotional neglect. That was all I needed to hear. Her non-denial confirmation that she was indeed involved with this dude, plus the blame shifting, told me everything. I'm sleeping in the guest room until we figure this out, I said, turning to leave the room. Fine. Run away from the conversation just like you always do, she called after me. This is why our marriage is failing. I didn't take the bait. I closed the guest room door, lay on the bed, and stared at the ceiling, mentally replaying the last few months. How had I missed the signs? Had I really been that absent? Or was she rewriting our history to justify her actions? One thing was certain, I wasn't going to be played for a fool. If Jessica wanted a break to explore things with Shakespeare the basement dweller, she could have it, but it wouldn't be on her terms. The next morning at 4:30 a.m., while Jessica was still asleep, I got up, got dressed, and took Lily to my mom's house. I explained enough of the situation that she understood it was serious, and being the saint she is, she agreed to watch Lily for the day, without prying for details I wasn't ready to share. Instead of going to the job site, I went to my office and made 3 calls. Dave, my lawyer buddy, who handled the contracts for my business. My bank, to schedule an appointment. A security company a client had recommended. I realized I needed to be smart. While Jessica was wrapped up in her online emotional affair, thinking she held all the cards, I started getting my ducks in a row. Dave was blunt when I laid out the situation. Mike, buddy, you need to protect yourself and Lily. Jessica's already shown she's willing to put her wants ahead of her daughter's needs. He advised me to document everything. Screenshots of her conversations with Ethan, records of all the money I spent supporting her, the hours I worked while she was finding herself online. He also suggested I start keeping a log of Jessica's parenting, or lack thereof, and my own involvement with Lily. Courts generally favor the mother, he warned. But if you can show she's an uninvolved parent and you're the stable one despite working full-time, you've got a shot at primary custody. I had the security company install cameras in the common areas of our house, completely legal since I owned it, and informed Jessica they were being installed for security. She rolled her eyes but was too busy texting to argue much. At the bank, I opened a separate account and started moving some money there. Not enough to raise suspicion, but enough to have a cushion if things went south fast. I also pulled our financial records for the past year, showing exactly how much had gone to support Jessica's finding herself activities. Next, I reduced my work hours slightly. Instead of 12-hour days, I cut back to 9 to 10, delegating more to my foreman Tim, who was more than capable. This gave me more time with Lily and let me document what a hands-on dad I was, despite working my ass off. I started taking Lily to her doctor appointments, which Jessica had forgotten twice already, handling most of the grocery shopping, finding the fridge mysteriously empty too, often, and taking detailed notes of Jessica's daily schedule, which consisted mainly of sleeping until 10, being on her phone until midnight, and doing the absolute minimum with Lily. Jessica was so wrapped up in her little fantasy world that she didn't notice what I was doing. She'd sit on FaceTime with this Ethan dude right in the living room, barely acknowledging me, or sometimes even Lily, who would toddle up to her saying "Mama," only to be absently patted on the head and redirected to her toys. One night I overheard her telling him, "Once I figure out the logistics, I can come visit you." Mike is so clueless, he thinks this break is temporary. He's still sleeping in the guest room like a good little boy. That's when I knew this wasn't salvageable, and I wasn't going to be her backup plan or her ATM while she tested out life with Discount Shakespeare. I went to 3 different divorce attorneys for consultations, finally settling on Sarah, a no-nonsense female lawyer who specialized in fathers' rights cases. She looked over the evidence I'd gathered and nodded approvingly. "You've done your homework, Mike. Most guys in your situation are reactive instead of proactive. Let's put together a strategy that protects your rights and Lily's well-being." Meanwhile, to maintain appearances, I started going to therapy. Not because I thought it would save our marriage, but because I needed the professional documentation of my efforts to work on myself in contrast to Jessica's complete lack of effort. Plus, it actually helped to talk through the mindfuck that was watching my wife dismantle our life for an online fantasy. Dr. Chen was direct. "Mike, from what you've described, Jessica is showing classic signs of someone in the affair fog. She's rewriting your marital history to justify her actions. She's compartmentalizing her role as a mother to pursue this new excitement. And she's blame-shifting to make you responsible for her choices." "So what do I do?" I asked. "Continue documenting. Don't engage in arguments. And prepare yourself for the possibility that she's not coming back from this fog anytime soon, if ever." It hurt to hear, but deep down, I knew he was right. The woman I married was gone, or maybe she'd never really existed. Either way, I needed to protect myself and my daughter from whatever storm was coming. As weeks passed, Jessica became more entitled and rude. With each passing day, it was like she dropped another mask, revealing the person she'd apparently been all along. One Sunday, my only full day off, she actually handed me a list of chores to do because she was too emotionally drained to handle them. "I've been talking to my life coach. aka some random chick from her Discord who charged $200 per hour for Zoom calls. Yes, I saw the credit card statement. And she says I need to prioritize my self-care. As the male partner who's emotionally stunted, you should be stepping up more around here. I looked at the list. It included mowing the lawn, fixing the garage door, cleaning the gutters, doing all the laundry, including her delicates, and meal prepping for her for the week. Nothing for Lily, notice. I laughed and handed it back. I'll handle my half of the parenting and household responsibilities, just like I always have, but I'm not your servant. She went ballistic, ranting about the mental load of being a mother and how I couldn't possibly understand because of my male privilege. Meanwhile, our daughter was playing happily in the playpen I had set up that morning after making her breakfast. What mental load, Jessica? I'm handling all of Lily's doctor appointments, most of the cooking and shopping, and still working 50 hours a week. What exactly are you doing that's so mentally taxing? You just don't get it, she screamed, storming off to, you guessed it, video chat with Ethan. The irony, the security cameras revealed Jessica spent maybe 2 to 3 hours actually engaging with Lily daily. The rest was screen time, either Lily watching tablets or Jessica on her phone with Ethan. She started criticizing everything about me, from how I parented, you're too rough when you play with her, because I tossed Lily in the air and she giggled uncontrollably, to my work. It's just construction, not rocket science. Despite the fact my just construction business paid for her entire lifestyle, to my fitness routine. So vain to go to the gym when you should be helping me, though she never specified what she needed help with, since I was already doing most things. The woman who once told me my work ethic and strength were what attracted her to me was now using them as weapons against me. Like it was a character flaw that I could frame a house or lift heavy things or work until a job was done right. One day, she left a notebook open on the kitchen counter while she was in the bathroom. I'm not proud that I looked, but given everything that had happened, I felt justified. It was some kind of journal exercise her life coach had her doing, listing her ideal partner traits versus her current reality. Under ideal, she had written, intellectually stimulating, creative, and sensitive. Understands my emotional needs without me having to explain. Prioritizes quality time over material things. Sees me as an equal, not a mother-wife role. Spiritual connection. Under current reality, me, obviously, only talks about work and practical matters. No creative hobbies or interests, emotionally unavailable, doesn't understand deeper needs. Thinks providing financially is enough. Sees me primarily as mother of his child. No spiritual dimension. I was stunned. In what universe was I the guy she was describing? I'd taken up woodworking as a hobby years ago and had made half our furniture, including Lily's crib. I'd tried countless times to talk about things beyond work, but got shut down with one-word answers. I'd planned surprise dates until she started canceling last minute for me time. It hit me then. Jessica had created a fictional version of me to justify her affair. In her mind, I was now the villain of her story, the obstacle to her happiness, not the same guy she'd built a life with for 8 years. She came back from the bathroom and saw me looking at her notebook. Seriously? You're going through my private thoughts now? This is exactly why I'm unhappy. You have no respect for my boundaries. Respect works both ways, Jess, I said quietly. You've got me painted as some emotionless robot, but that's not reality. That's the story you're telling yourself to feel better about what you're doing. You don't know anything about what I'm feeling. You never have. I just walked away. There was no point arguing with someone who was rewriting history to fit her narrative. I took Lily to the park instead, letting her toddle around the playground while I sat on a bench and tried to reconcile the woman I married with the stranger living in my house. That night, she didn't come home until after 11, claiming she'd been with friends, though her location, still shared on our phones, showed she'd been sitting in the parking lot of a Starbucks for 4 hours, presumably on a call with Ethan. She didn't ask about Lily, didn't check if she was okay, just went straight to the shower with her phone. It was like watching someone I loved turn into someone I didn't even recognize, and there wasn't a damn thing I could do about it. 4 weeks into her break, I came home from the gym to find Jessica had ordered $600 worth of new clothes on my credit card. When I questioned it, she said, I deserve to feel good about myself. Your constant criticism is why I needed this break. I was too tired to argue. I just nodded, went upstairs to shower, and spent some quality time with Lily, who was thrilled to show me she could stack blocks higher than before. That night, Jessica left her laptop open when she went to take a bath. A message popped up from Ethan. Curiosity got the better of me, so I looked. They were openly mocking me. She called me desperate and pathetic for still trying to fix things, by which she meant providing for my family, and taking care of my daughter. She laughed about how I'd started going to therapy, calling it hilarious that he thinks he can change. He's so clueless, she wrote. Once I figure out child support and alimony, I can come see you. His business did really well last year, so I should get a nice payout. I've been researching, and Oregon law is better for mothers, so I'll file once I'm there with Lily. He'll have to pay for us to live near you. Something in me snapped, not in a rage way, but in a moment of perfect clarity. I took pictures of the conversation, then closed her laptop. When she came out of the bathroom, wrapped in the plush robe I'd gotten her for Christmas, I was sitting calmly at the kitchen island. Good bath? I asked. Fine, she said, clearly suspicious of my calm demeanor. So, I've been thinking about this break you wanted, I said, keeping my voice even. And I think you're right. We do need to make some changes. Her eyes lit up, probably thinking I was going to offer some grand gesture to win her back. I think it's time we stop pretending. You want to be with Ethan, so go be with him. You have until the end of the month to move out. Her face went from shock to anger in seconds. Move out? This is my house too. And Lily stays with me. Actually, this house is solely in my name. I bought it before we were married, remember? I have the deed to prove it. And as for Lily, we'll let the courts decide who provides the more stable home environment. She pulled out her trump card. No judge will take a child from her mother. I'll get full custody, and you'll be lucky to see her every other weekend. I smiled, which seemed to unnerve her more than any shouting would have. You'd be surprised what judges think about mothers who neglect their children to have online affairs. I've documented everything, Jessica. Everything. For the first time, I saw fear in her eyes. But it quickly hardened back to defiance. You're bluffing. You don't have anything. I pulled out my phone, opened my email, and showed her one of the screenshots I'd taken. Her discussing with Ethan how she could minimize my parenting time so they could start fresh in Oregon. There's plenty more where that came from, including security footage of you ignoring Lily's crying because you were too busy sexting. How do you think a family court judge will view that? You've been spying on me? In my own home? My home, I corrected. And yes, I installed security cameras after finding out my wife was planning to take my daughter across the country to live with some guy she met online. Perfectly legal and will be very interesting viewing for the custody evaluator. She tried a different tack, her voice softening as she reached for my arm. Mike, come on. We can work this out. I was just blowing off steam with Ethan. You know you and Lily are my world. I gently removed her hand. Save it, Jessica. I've seen the real you now. And honestly, I don't like her very much. She burst into tears, but I'd seen enough of her acting to know they were as fake as her sudden claim of devotion. What do you want from me? She sobbed. I want you to leave. Start your new life with Ethan or whoever. But Lily stays here, in her home, with a parent who puts her needs first. You can't do this to me. I'll fight you. I'll tell everyone what a controlling monster you are. Go ahead. I've got the receipts, as the kids say. Every neglectful moment, every plan to use me for money, every lie you've told. Your choice if you want all that made public in court. She stormed off, slamming the bedroom door. I slept soundly that night for the first time in weeks. The weight of indecision finally lifted from my shoulders. The next few weeks were a hurricane of her alternating between threats and tears. One day she'd scream that she'd take me for everything I had. The next she'd sob about how she still loved me, and Ethan was just a mistake. I remained calm through it all, which only infuriated her more. Why aren't you fighting for me? She demanded once. Because you're not worth fighting for anymore, I replied simply. The woman I loved wouldn't have done any of this. She tried to turn friends against me with wild stories about emotional abuse and controlling behavior. Most saw through it, especially once I calmly showed them evidence of what had really been happening. Her parents even called me to apologize for her behavior after she tried to spin some victim narrative to them. We raised her better than this, her father said, genuine confusion in his voice. I don't know what's gotten into her, but we want you to know we support you and Lily. True to my word, I filed for divorce and petitioned for primary custody of Lily. Jessica was stunned when my lawyer presented evidence of her neglect, the security footage showing her ignoring Lily's cries while on calls with Ethan, screenshots of her telling him she can't wait to be free of mom duties, texts complaining about how motherhood was ruining her life. The judge was particularly unimpressed when my lawyer presented evidence of her plans to move across the country to be with a man she'd never met in person, willing to uproot Lily from her stable home. Mrs. Harris, the judge said, peering over his glasses, this court's primary concern is the well-being of the minor child. Your communications suggest a concerning lack of priority for your daughter's stability and emotional needs. Jessica tried to argue that she'd been suffering from postpartum depression and that I hadn't been supportive, but the timeline didn't add up. Lily was over a year old when she started her affair, and there was ample evidence of my efforts to support her parenting while she checked out. In the end, the judge awarded me primary physical custody of Lily, with Jessica getting supervised visitation until she could demonstrate stability and commitment to parenting. No alimony since our marriage was short and she was capable of working. Child support from her would be determined once she found employment. The day she had to move out, reality finally hit her. Ethan had been strangely quiet as the divorce proceedings got underway, his multiple times daily messages dwindling to occasional check-ins. It turned out Prince Charming had ghosted her after realizing she wouldn't be bringing a fat divorce settlement to fund his gaming lifestyle. She stood in the living room, looking lost among the few boxes of personal items she was taking. I let her have whatever she wanted of the household items, but she didn't seem interested in anything practical. "Mike, please," she begged, tears streaming down her face. "I made a horrible mistake. I was depressed after having Lily and just got lost. We can fix this. I'll go to therapy. I'll delete all my accounts. I'll be the wife you deserve." "There's nothing to fix, Jessica. I deserve someone who sees my hard work as an expression of love, not as something to exploit. Lily deserves a mother who values her more than online attention. But where am I supposed to go? What am I supposed to do?" she cried, sounding like a child herself. "Your parents said you can stay with them until you find a job. As for what you do, that's up to you. For the first time in years, your choices are your own. So is the responsibility for them." She left that day with her parents, who came to help her move, both of them watching me with sad, apologetic eyes as they loaded her things into their SUV. I felt no joy in her distress, only a hollow relief that the worst was finally over. 2 months later, Jessica called me in tears. I almost didn't recognize her voice. She sounded broken. Turns out, her fantasy romance had turned into a nightmare. After begging her parents for a loan to get a plane ticket, she actually flew out to meet Ethan. She'd even drained the small savings account she had, mostly money I had given her for emergencies. Against all my warnings and her parents' pleas, she was convinced he was her soulmate. He wasn't who he said he was, Mike," she sobbed. "As soon as I got there, he treated me like I was just some whore he'd met online. He took the rest of my money, nearly $3,000, saying we needed it for our place. Then he disappeared for days, came back drunk, and when I confronted him, he laughed in my face. Said I was just a desperate housewife he'd been playing for kicks. He told all his friends I was easy and pathetic. She'd found a small apartment back in town, but couldn't afford the rent after her first month. Ethan had blocked her everywhere after bleeding her dry. Her supportive Discord friends had vanished when she needed actual help instead of validation. She couldn't find a job that paid enough after her employment gap. "I made the biggest mistake of my life," she wept. "I threw away everything good for a complete lie. Please, Mike, I know I don't deserve it, but can we try again? For Lily? For us? I'll do anything to make it right. I miss our family. I miss you." Part of me felt sorry for her, but a bigger part remembered how she'd planned to use me, mock me, and take my daughter away. "I'll help you find resources," I said finally. "For Lily's sake, I need her mother to be stable. But that's it. You made your choice, and actions have consequences. What we had is gone." "You can't mean that," she whispered. "After everything we've been through." "That's just it, Jess. We've been through hell, but you're the one who dragged us there. I'm finally finding peace. Lily is thriving. I won't risk that again." She broke down completely then, and despite everything, I felt a pang of the old affection, but I knew better now. Her tears had always been her most effective weapon. "I can recommend some job placement services," I said, keeping my voice gentle but firm. "And I know an apartment complex that has reasonable rents. But that's as far as my help goes. Can I at least see Lily more? The supervised visits are so clinical. Let's see how you do establishing stability first. Lily needs consistency, not someone who might disappear again when the next Ethan comes along." That hit her hard, but it needed to be said. She'd shown who she was, and I believed her. Today, I have my daughter 80% of the time. I've scaled back work to spend more quality time with her, trusting my foreman Tim with more responsibility, even made him a junior partner. I converted the home office into an epic playroom for Lily with a reading nook, art station, and enough stuffed animals to start a small zoo. Jessica is slowly getting her act together with therapy and a retail job. She sees Lily regularly, but knows she has to earn back trust. Our exchanges are civil, sometimes even friendly, but there's a wall there now that will never come down. She made sure of that. As for me, I'm dating a pediatric nurse named Claire who I met at one of Lily's checkups. She thinks my dedication to my daughter and work ethic are attractive, not things to mock. She appreciates the life I've built instead of comparing it to Instagram fantasies. And she actually asks about my day and listens to the answer, even if it's just about concrete mixtures or zoning permits. The first time Claire came over for dinner and saw my woodworking shop in the garage, she asked thoughtful questions about the coffee table I was making. Jessica had called that same hobby boring and a waste of time when we were together. Sometimes the best revenge isn't making someone suffer. It's building a better life while they realize what they threw away. I dodged a bullet. And every time I see Jessica's face when she picks up Lily and glimpses the happy home she could have had, I know she realizes it too. Story 6. This story is titled, My Wife Said Plenty of Men Want Me, so I left and let them have her, but later she is calling and begging to reconcile. Hey everyone. Before we jump into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed the channel is losing some traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and it helps us keep bringing you awesome content. Your support means the world. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much. Now let's start the video. So I'm sitting here at 3 a.m. unable to sleep. Figured I might as well type this stuff out. Never thought I'd be sharing my personal crap on Reddit, but here we are. Maybe writing this will help me process everything that happened. Me, 32 male, and Emma, 30 female, were together since our early 20s. Met at my friend's house party. She was this gorgeous blonde who laughed at my stupid jokes. Honestly, couldn't believe she actually gave me her number. The first few years were great, staying up talking about random stuff, weekend trips wherever we could afford gas money to get to, inside jokes that made absolutely no sense to anyone else. Proposed after 3 years and had a small wedding at this lake spot. Nothing fancy, just people we actually cared about. Emma wore this simple dress that made her look incredible. First couple years of marriage were pretty good. We had this tiny apartment that always had something broken. Landlord was useless. Talked about maybe going to Italy someday, starting a family once we weren't broke all the time. I was building my landscaping business from nothing. Just me. A truck that broke down every other week, and some basic tools. Emma was actually really supportive back then. She'd help me figure out the accounting stuff, bring me lunch when I was working on bigger jobs, even help design some flyers and business cards. Even when I was completely exhausted from digging trenches and hauling rocks all day, I always tried to make time for her. Random date nights at places we could afford, little stuff I'd pick up when it reminded me of her, weekend trips to nearby spots. Nothing expensive, but I wanted her to know she mattered, you know? I can remember exactly when everything started changing. Emma's cousin Vanessa moved to our city for some job opportunity. Vanessa, 28 female, was basically Emma's opposite. Super loud, constantly partying, always posting these thirst trap photos on Instagram, and had this attitude like she was the main character in some TV show or something. Never had a boyfriend for more than a couple months, but always had guys buying her drinks and taking her to fancy restaurants. At first, I didn't really care that Emma was hanging out with her. Family's important, right? But then I started noticing these little changes. Emma started dressing different, more revealing stuff that she never wore before. Her Instagram started changing too. More posed photos, weird facial expressions, mysterious captions. She even started talking different around Vanessa, using slang I'd never heard her say before, laughing way louder than normal, just different. One night after they went out for girls' night, Emma came home a bit tipsy, and I overheard her still talking to Vanessa on the phone in the bathroom. I know, right? Did you see how many guys were checking me out? She was giggling like a teenager. No, Ryan doesn't mind. He's just happy I'm having fun. I pretended to be asleep when she came to bed. Maybe I should have said something then, but something told me to just watch what was happening for a while. Over the next couple months, Emma started being really weird with her phone. Changed her password, always putting it face down, taking calls in another room. When I'd ask who she was talking to, it was always just Vanessa or just work stuff. She was going out way more too. Girls' nights that would go till like 2 to 3 a.m. Weekend shopping trips with Vanessa, where she'd come back with hardly any actual shopping bags. I was starting to feel like I was living with a stranger. The Emma I married didn't care about getting attention from random guys or staying out all night. The Emma I married actually wanted to spend time with me, asked about my day, cared about what I was doing. This new Emma barely noticed if I was even home. I tried to fix things. One night, after another long workday, I picked up her favorite takeout and grabbed some flowers on the way home. Nothing fancy, just a simple gesture to remind her I was still here, still trying. But when I walked into the apartment, the place was empty. No note, no text, just silence. I set the food on the counter, sat at the table, and waited. An hour passed. Then 2. I checked her location. Out downtown again. Eventually, I gave up, ate alone, and put the flowers in the trash. When she finally came home, laughing at something on her phone, she barely even glanced at me. "Oh, you're still up?" she said, kicking off her heels. I wanted to ask if she even noticed I was trying, if she cared at all. But I already knew the answer. We stopped even having conversations. When we did talk, it was mostly her talking about her cousin's latest adventures or some work drama. She stopped asking about my business, even though I was finally starting to get some bigger clients. One day I landed this huge contract with this commercial office park. Biggest job I'd ever gotten. The kind that could really put my company on the map. When I told Emma, she barely looked up from her phone. "That's nice, babe," she said, scrolling through Instagram. I'd been working my ass off for years to get to that point, and she couldn't even pretend to care for 5 seconds. One night, I was in the kitchen making coffee while Emma was getting ready to go out again. She walked in, dressed in something way flashier than what she used to wear. Tight red dress, heels high enough to make my ankles hurt just looking at them, gold hoop earrings that Vanessa probably picked out. I looked up from the sink and gave her a once-over. "Damn, where's the fire?" I joked, trying to keep it light. She did a little spin. "Like it?" she asked, grinning at herself in the fridge reflection more than at me. "I mean, yeah, but you didn't used to dress up like this just for drinks with Vanessa." She shrugged, checking her phone. "Maybe I'm just realizing I don't have to dress boring anymore. Vanessa says I should show off what I've got." I dried my hands and leaned against the counter. "Vanessa says a lot of things." Emma smirked, locking her phone and slipping it into her tiny purse. "Well, she's not wrong. You know, you're pretty lucky, Ryan. Plenty of guys wish to have a wife who looks like this." I was fucking confused. Who says that to their husband? I raised an eyebrow. "Yeah? Good thing I married you before you figured that out, huh?" She just laughed, but it wasn't her usual laugh. It was different, like she actually believed what she was saying. She walked over and said, "Don't wait up." I stood there for a long time after she left, staring at the door, feeling something I couldn't quite put my finger on. I started to pull back a little, not trying so hard, not rushing home early to see her, not suggesting date nights or bringing home little surprises. I wanted to see if she'd notice, if she'd start putting in some effort. She didn't. If anything, she seemed relieved that I wasn't bothering her as much. Her job at this marketing company was going well. She'd gotten a promotion, was making better money than me for a while. Started talking about all these work dinners and client events she had to go to. Always got super dressed up for these work things. Sometimes she'd come home with her makeup all messed up or her hair looking crazy. "It's windy outside," she'd say. In the middle of summer. At midnight. I'm not stupid, but I kept telling myself I was being paranoid. That Emma wouldn't do that to me. That maybe this was just some weird phase she was going through. But deep down, I was starting to suspect the worst. One day I was fixing our kitchen sink when her phone buzzed on the counter, so I glanced over. It was a text from Vanessa. "Delete your texts with David. R might see." Who the hell was David? I put the phone down, my heart racing. When Emma came, I tried to act normal, but watched as she grabbed her phone immediately, checked it, then typed something really quick. That night, I couldn't sleep. I just laid there next to her, feeling like I was sleeping next to someone I didn't even know anymore. That was just the beginning of the worst year of my life. After seeing that text, I started paying more attention to everything. Emma was going out like 3 to 4 nights a week at this point. Always had some excuse. Work event, girls' night, book club. She hadn't read a book in years. Whatever. I started keeping track of when she said she was working late and checking her location sometimes. Yeah, I know that's not great, but whatever. One night, she said she had a team-building dinner downtown. Her location showed her across town at this hotel. Could have been a legit work thing at a hotel conference room, right? That's what I kept telling myself anyway. I started talking to her less and less. Kinda shut down emotionally, I guess. I was working longer hours, taking on more jobs, basically trying to stay busy so I wouldn't have to come home and see her getting all dressed up to go somewhere that probably wasn't where she said she was going. My buddy Jake called me one night when I was at a job site finishing up. "Hey man, isn't Emma supposed to be at some work conference this weekend?" he asked, sounding weird. "Yeah, in Cincinnati. Why?" "'Cause I just saw her Instagram story. She's at that new rooftop bar downtown with Vanessa and some guys. Thought you should know." I checked her story and sure enough, there she was. Definitely not in Cincinnati. Definitely not at a work conference. I saved the video before she could delete it. When she came home Sunday night, she had all these stories about the conference, the speakers, the hotel, even brought me a stupid keychain as a souvenir. I just nodded and pretended to believe her. I felt sick to my stomach the whole time. I still didn't confront her, though. I wanted actual proof of cheating, not just lying about where she was. I needed to see it with my own eyes so there'd be no doubt, no way for her to twist things around and make me think I was crazy for suspecting her. We'd been together almost 10 years at that point, and I wasn't about to blow everything up without being 100% certain. When I made my move, I wanted all my facts straight, so she couldn't bullshit her way out of it. Things kept getting worse. She'd come home smelling like cologne that wasn't mine. There were unexplained charges on our joint credit card for restaurants and bars on nights she claimed to be just at Vanessa's watching movies. She'd get texts at weird hours and take her phone into the bathroom to reply. Meanwhile, Vanessa was always there, encouraging everything. She'd post photos of them out at clubs, tagging a bunch of guys I didn't know. Sometimes she'd come over to our place to pick Emma up and would barely acknowledge me, like I was the roommate, not the husband. One time I overheard Vanessa telling Emma, "You only live once, girl. Why settle for boring when you could have exciting? These guys are practically begging for your attention." Emma giggled and said, "Ryan doesn't suspect anything. He's too busy with work." That hurt more than I can explain. Not just that she was clearly doing stuff behind my back, but that she thought I was too stupid to notice, and that she and Vanessa were laughing about it. I started to make a plan. Not to try to fix things. I was pretty sure we were beyond that point, but to protect myself for when everything inevitably blew up. I talked to a lawyer friend just to understand how divorce worked in our state. I started putting aside some money in a separate account. I documented the weird expenses, saved screenshots of her location not matching where she said she was, kept the Instagram stories that contradicted her lies. Then came the night that changed everything. Emma said she had to go to a storage unit we rented to get some winter clothes since the weather was getting colder. Said she'd be back in an hour. 3 hours later, still not home, not answering texts. I decided to drive to the storage place myself, partly to see if she was actually there, partly because I needed to get out of the house before I lost my mind. As I pulled up to the storage facility, I saw her car parked there, so she was actually where she said she'd be for once. I was about to turn around and go home when I saw her walking out. She wasn't alone. Some guy I'd never seen before was with her. Tall dude, fancy watch, expensive-looking jacket. They were laughing about something, standing really close to each other. Then he pulled her close and kissed her. Not a quick peck from a friend, but a full-on deep kiss that told me everything I needed to know. I felt like someone had just ripped my heart out through my throat. Part of me wanted to jump out and confront them, but something kept me frozen in my car. Emma got in her car, the guy got in his, and they drove off in different directions. When she came home about an hour later, she had some story about how the storage unit was a mess, and it took forever to find the winter clothes. She even had a box of winter stuff with her as proof. I let her talk, nodding occasionally, wondering how many times she'd lied to my face like this. "How was your night?" she asked, not really caring about the answer. "Fine," I said. "Just watched some TV." She didn't even notice how quiet I was being, just went to take a shower, probably to wash off any evidence of what she'd been doing, or who she'd been doing. I sat there on the couch, trying to figure out what to do next. I had my proof now. The question was, what was I going to do with it? I spent the whole night thinking about what to do. I barely slept, just laid there listening to her breathing, wondering how someone could lie so easily, day after day, to someone they supposedly loved. After that night, I knew 100% I was done. No question about it. Just looking at her made my stomach turn. I didn't need to think about it or weigh my options. I was out. First thing the next morning, I called a divorce lawyer. Same guy my friend used when his wife cheated. Made an appointment for that same week. Then I went straight to the bank and completely separated my finances. Moved my direct deposit to a new account she couldn't touch, took my name off our joint credit card, and withdrew exactly half of our savings to put in my new account. Left her half there, didn't want to screw her over financially, but wasn't about to let her spend my money on her boyfriends either. Every time she touched me or tried to act normal, I had to force myself not to physically recoil. The thought of her with those other guys made me feel physically sick. I'd look at her and just see this stranger wearing a familiar face. Someone I used to love who didn't exist anymore. But I played it cool. Didn't want her suspecting anything until I had everything lined up. Emma didn't suspect anything. She was too wrapped up in her own little world to notice I was making moves to leave. She kept going out, kept lying about where she was going, kept texting guys behind my back. I just let her do her thing while I prepared for the end. The next day, Vanessa showed up at our place unannounced. They were planning some weekend trip right in front of me, giggling about inside jokes. I heard Vanessa whisper, "Is Chris going to be there?" And Emma shushing her, looking over at me. Chris must be the guy from the storage unit. Or maybe another one. Who knows how many there were at this point? That night, Emma went out again. Said it was a work happy hour. I didn't bother asking questions anymore. Around 2 a.m., she stumbled in, clearly wasted. "Where have you been?" I asked from the couch where I'd been sitting in the dark. She jumped, surprised to see me still up. "Jesus, Ryan? You scared me. Just out with people from work, told you that." "That's weird, 'cause I called your office earlier about that health insurance paperwork we needed. Jen said there was no happy hour planned." Emma's face changed, that deer in headlights look before she recovered. "Different department. Marketing team thing." I just sat there, staring at her. This woman who I'd spent nearly a decade with, who I thought I knew better than anyone in the world. All I felt was this weird sense of calm, like I was watching a movie of my life instead of actually living it. I thought about the first time we met, how her laugh made me feel all nervous and excited at the same time. Our first apartment with that broken heater we couldn't afford to fix. The way she used to bring me coffee in bed on weekends. All these memories flashing through my mind like they were from another lifetime. And now this. This stranger telling me obvious lies. This person who meant nothing to me anymore. "Something else you want to tell me, Emma?" I asked quietly. "What are you talking about?" She was getting defensive now. "I saw you. At the storage unit. With him." Her face went white. "You were following me." "Nope. Just needed to grab something myself and saw you by accident." "Who is he? How long has this been going on?" She started crying, but I could tell they weren't real tears. They were the manipulative kind, the ones designed to make me feel bad for catching her. "It's not what you think," she sobbed. "He's just a friend. You kiss all your friends like that?" That's when her whole attitude changed. The tears stopped instantly. She stood up straighter, suddenly cold. "Fine. Yes, I've been seeing other people. Several, actually. Vanessa helped me realize I've been wasting my youth tied down to one person. Do you know how many men would kill to be with me? I'm done living by your boring rules." She kept going, getting more cruel with each word. "I've been seeing guys who make twice what you do. Guys who don't bore me to death. So yeah, I'm done living by your pathetic rules about marriage and commitment when I could be living my actual life." I just stood there, staring at her. This woman wearing my wife's face, saying these horrible things. In that moment, everything inside me went quiet. "Does Vanessa tell you that?" I asked quietly. "That you're missing out? That men are lining up for you?" "Vanessa understands me. She knows what it's like to be desired, to have options. Something you clearly don't get." I felt hollow. Not even angry anymore. Just empty. Like someone had scooped out everything inside me that made me who I was. The rage, the betrayal, the heartbreak. It was all there, but distant somehow. Like it was happening to someone else. She was still talking. Something about how everyone cheats, and how brave she was for going after what she wanted. The absolute crap of it all was almost funny. "Whatever!" She rolled her eyes when I didn't respond. "What are you going to do? Divorce me? Go ahead. Like I said, I'll have a new man tomorrow." I looked at her for a long moment. All I felt was pity. Pity for someone so broken inside that she could throw away real love for whatever validation she was chasing. "All right," I said flatly. That single word stopped her cold. She'd been expecting a fight. Tears. Begging. Anything but calm acceptance. "What?" She blinked like she hadn't heard me right. I grabbed my pre-packed bag. Yeah, I'd been ready for this. And headed for the door. "Where are you going?" she demanded, real panic creeping into her voice now. I paused with my hand on the doorknob, not even bothering to turn around. "You told me plenty of men would love to have you." I let the words hang for a second before adding, "Good luck finding one who actually puts up with you." And I walked out. I stayed at Jake's place that night. Told him everything. He let me crash on his couch and didn't judge me when I broke down crying at 3 a.m. Real friends show up when everything falls apart, and Jake's a real friend. The next morning, I called the divorce lawyer again and moved up our appointment. I wasn't interested in playing games or dragging things out. I just wanted out. Never thought I'd be 32 and starting over. Never thought the person I trusted most would be the one to destroy everything we built. But here we are. After that, things moved pretty fast. The lawyer I met with was this no-nonsense lady who'd seen it all before. She listened to my story, looked at the evidence I had, screenshots of Emma's location history not matching her stories, the saved Instagram posts, etc., and laid out a plan. I wasn't interested in taking Emma to the cleaners or anything. Just wanted a clean break. No kids, thankfully. No house together, we were still renting. Just some furniture and joint accounts to split up. My lawyer thought I was being too nice, but I told her I just wanted this over with as quickly and cleanly as possible. Emma seemed genuinely shocked when she got served with the divorce papers. I think she expected me to come crawling back, begging for another chance. Instead, I went no contact except through lawyers. Blocked her number, blocked her on social media, told mutual friends I didn't want updates about her. I think that's what really got to her, that I could just walk away. Her whole thing was thinking she had all the power, that she was the prize that everyone wanted. Me leaving without a fight didn't fit her narrative. She started calling from different numbers, showing up at job sites. Even had her mom call me, we always got along well, to try to convince me to at least talk to Emma. I stayed firm, though. The damage was done. The legal process moved pretty quick. I let her keep more of our stuff than I probably should have. Most of the furniture didn't fight over the joint accounts even though I'd put in more. My lawyer thought I was being an idiot, but I just wanted Emma out of my life. Once the divorce was finalized, I did something that surprised even me. I texted her cousin Vanessa. Yeah, I know how that sounds, but hear me out. I wasn't interested in her romantically. I wanted answers. I invited her for coffee, and surprisingly, she agreed to meet. Why'd you do it? I asked once we were sitting down. Why'd you encourage Emma to cheat? To throw away our marriage? Vanessa had the decency to look uncomfortable. I didn't tell her to cheat. I just told her she was settling, that she could do better. Better than a husband who loved her? Who was faithful? Who was building a future with her? Look, she sighed. Emma was always jealous of me, of the attention I got, the freedom I had. When she started asking about my lifestyle, I just showed her, introduced her to some guys, took her to some clubs. What she did with that was her choice. I nodded, taking that in. You know what's funny, Vanessa? I always thought you were the cool one. But sitting here now, I just feel sorry for you. She looked startled. Excuse me? You're so busy collecting attention from guys who don't actually care about you that you've never experienced what real love feels like. So you had to destroy someone else's chance at it. Vanessa's face got all red. That's not… I didn't… It's fine. I cut her off, standing up. I didn't ask you here to argue. I just wanted to understand. And now I do. As I turned to leave, she called after me. Emma's miserable, you know. Those guys she was seeing, none of them want anything serious with her. They just wanted what guys always want. I paused. That's not my problem anymore. But then things got weird. Vanessa started texting me after our coffee meetup. At first with, "How are you doing?" messages, then sending me memes, then getting flirtier. Instead of ignoring her like I planned to, I saw an opportunity. I had an idea. I started responding, playing it cool but interested. We started talking regularly. I knew exactly what she was doing. She saw me as a challenge now. The guy who walked away from her cousin and didn't immediately worship her like every other dude. But what she didn't realize was that I was playing my own game. After a few weeks of texting, I invited Vanessa over to my new place for drinks. She showed up wearing this tight dress. I played my part, complimented her, laughed at her jokes, touched her arm when talking. The next morning, I accidentally left my location sharing on. When I took her to breakfast at this place I knew Emma always went to on Saturdays. Made sure to sit by the window. Sure enough, Emma walked in, saw us together, and froze. The look on her face was, well, exactly what I was hoping for. Confusion, then shock, then this weird mixture of anger and hurt that I'd never seen before. She turned around and practically ran out. Vanessa noticed and got this smug look. Guess Emma's seeing what she lost, she said, clearly enjoying her cousin's pain. I just shrugged like I didn't care, but inside I was thinking, now you know how it feels. Within hours, Emma was blowing up my phone. Dozens of texts ranging from furious, "How could you sleep with my cousin?" to devastated, "Of all people, why her?" to pathetic, "I made a mistake, please talk to me." I didn't respond to any of them. Vanessa and I kept seeing each other for about a month. Nothing serious, just casual dates that I made sure Emma would find out about. I'd pick Vanessa up from work when I knew Emma might see. We'd show up together at places where mutual friends would be. I even posted a few pics of us on Instagram, knowing Emma would see them. Was it petty? Hell yes. After all her talk about how replaceable I was, watching her meltdown because I was with her cousin felt like justice. Vanessa thought she was in control the whole time, but really, I was using her exactly how she'd used Emma to destroy our marriage. And honestly, Vanessa was shallow as hell. Couldn't talk about anything except other people's drama or herself. After about a month, when I was sure Emma had fully gotten the message, I ended things with Vanessa. We were at dinner and she was going on about how her Instagram followers had increased since we started hanging out. Look, I interrupted, this isn't working for me anymore. She looked genuinely shocked. What? Why? Things are going great. They're really not. We want different things. Her face hardened. Is this because of Emma? Has she been talking to you? No, I said honestly. This is because you're exactly like her. Shallow, self-centered, and obsessed with what other people think. I needed to see that for myself, and now I have. So thanks for the clarity. The look on her face was priceless. Nobody had ever dumped her before, especially not with the truth. After that, I focused on myself completely. Threw myself into my business, which was growing faster than I could handle sometimes. Started hitting the gym regularly, not to look good for someone else, but because it helped clear my head. Reconnected with old friends I'd lost touch with during my marriage. A few weeks after I dumped Vanessa, I met a gorgeous girl, I'll call her Allison, at a client's housewarming party. She was this stunning redhead who immediately caught my eye, but what really got me was how different she was from Emma and Vanessa. When people talked, she actually listened. She asked real questions and cared about the answers. She laughed at jokes because they were funny, not to get attention. We hit it off right away. Started dating, taking it slow. She was everything Emma wasn't. Confident without being arrogant, independent without being selfish, beautiful without needing constant validation from strangers. From mutual friends who couldn't help gossiping, I heard Emma was struggling. I guess she gowned out that she's not to be killed for, as she thought. The guys she'd been seeing disappeared once they got what they wanted. Her fabulous single life was just a bunch of hangovers and ghostings. She'd even gotten in trouble at work for sleeping with clients. Meanwhile, Vanessa had moved on to some rich older guy and barely talked to Emma anymore. But honestly, I didn't care about either of them. Their drama seemed so small and pointless now. I was too busy building something real with someone who actually deserved my time. And life was actually good for once. Work was taking off. I had an amazing woman who actually respected me. And I was finally feeling like myself again. Then one Friday evening, everything almost got derailed. Allison and I were making dinner together when someone started pounding on the front door. When I opened it, Emma was standing there looking like a mess. Unwashed hair, baggy clothes, puffy eyes. "What are you doing here?" I asked. "How do you even know where I live?" "Jake's wife told me," she mumbled. "Ryan, please, I just need to talk to you." "There's nothing to talk about. You need to leave." I started to close the door. She literally got down on her knees in the doorway. "Please, I'm begging you. I made the biggest mistake of my life. I've lost everything, my job, my friends. Vanessa doesn't even talk to me anymore. I can't sleep. I can't eat. I miss you so much it physically hurts. That's not my problem, Emma." Tears were streaming down her face now. "I know it's not. But please, if what we had ever meant anything to you, just give me 5 minutes. 5 minutes to explain. I've been in therapy. I understand now why I did what I did. I was insecure and stupid and, God, Ryan, I'd do anything to take it back." She was full on sobbing now, still on her knees. It was honestly pathetic and uncomfortable to watch. "Emma, get up. This isn't going to work." Before I could get her to leave, Allison came to the door. There was this weird moment where they just stared at each other. "You must be Emma," Allison said politely. "I'm Allison." Emma ignored her hand. "Who the fuck are you?" "She's my girlfriend," I said. "She lives here." Emma's mouth dropped open. "Lives here? It's been less than a year since our divorce and you've already moved someone in?" "You said I was easily replaceable," I reminded her. Allison went back to the kitchen while I stepped outside to talk to Emma. "I fucked up, Ryan," Emma said, tearing up. "I know that now. I was stupid and selfish. I didn't value what we had. Cool realization, but too late. I never found what I was looking for with those other guys. None of them cared about me. I didn't appreciate your loyalty. Is there a point to this visit?" "I want another chance," she blurted out. "We had 10 years together. That has to mean something." I actually laughed. "Are you serious? You think I want to get back with you?" "With her?" Emma gestured toward the house. "Someone you've known for what? A few weeks? She's the best thing that's happened to me in years." Emma's voice got louder. "We were together for 10 years. You can't just replace a decade-long relationship in a couple of months." "Apparently I can," I said coldly. When Allison came to check on the food, Emma lost it. "So you just move this model into your life and pretend our marriage never happened?" "I'm a landscape architect," Allison corrected calmly. "I don't give a fuck what you are," Emma shouted. "You're nothing but a rebound. He was with me for 10 years. "And you destroyed it," I cut in. "You cheated with multiple guys. You told me any man could replace me. Well, you were wrong. I wasn't the replaceable one. You were." She looked stunned. "You don't mean that." "I do mean it. Those 10 years ended when you decided other men were more important than our marriage." She turned to Allison. "Has he told you everything? About sleeping with my cousin?" "He's told me everything," Allison said simply. "We don't have secrets." I took Allison's hand. "Don't come here again, Emma." As we turned to go inside, Emma started screaming. I closed the door on whatever else she was going to say. Through the door, we could hear her sobbing before she finally drove away. For days after, Emma tried contacting me through different numbers and accounts. I ignored all of it. That chapter of my life was closed. After all that, I proposed to Allison. We're getting married next spring. As for Emma, she moved back to her hometown. Vanessa got engaged to some rich older guy and doesn't talk to Emma anymore. Looking back, I've learned some tough lessons. When your wife starts acting shady, don't make excuses for her. Someone who can be talked into betraying you probably wasn't worth keeping anyway. And being single is way better than being with someone who makes you feel worthless. So thanks for the life lessons, Emma. That's my story, Reddit. If you're going through something similar, hang in there. It gets better. Edit. Thanks for all the responses. To answer common questions. 1. Yes, Allison knows about the Vanessa thing. She said it was understandable, but kinda gross. 2. No, I don't feel bad about how I handled Emma showing up. 3. Emma wasn't always like this. People either change or show their true colors eventually. 4. Haven't heard from Emma directly since. A friend said she's dating someone in her hometown now.